Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Northside Board of Trustees. Before calling this meeting to order, the board would like to take just a moment to briefly review some of the rules for conducting our meeting. The order of business for this meeting is set out in the agenda. One item that you may notice on the agenda is the consent agenda. This item includes items that are considered routine and/or are of a recurring nature. All the items listed under consent will be acted upon in one motion. If there is a consent agenda item which anyone here would like to address, please sign up to speak on that item, and we will pull it from the consent motion and discuss it separately. The purpose of our meeting is to conduct board business, and for that reason, it's held in public. This is not a public forum. However, we do provide the opportunity for audience participation. If there is anyone here who would like to address the board during an agenda item or citizen to be heard portion of the agenda, we ask that you please register on the sign-up sheet located at the entrance to this room. We will review the rules for addressing the board later in the meeting. Is there anyone here who would like to sign up to an agenda item that has not already done so? Okay. The meeting will then be officially called to order. Please stand and bow your heads as Trustee Joseph Medina leads us in the invocation and pledges of allegiance.
Almighty and merciful God, we ask you for your guidance and blessings upon this board, students, parents, patrons, teachers, and administrators as we assemble here this evening in the common pursuit of this great nation's wealth, our children. Amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to be Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Medina. The first item on the agenda is the public hearing, and that is the 21-22 Texas Academic Performance Report. Dr. Jordan.
Yes, good evening, Dr. Woods, President Freeman, and members of the board. I'll be sharing with you the 21-22 taper report as is done each year. As you're aware, school districts in Texas are required to publish the taper and hold a public hearing. The full taper report is available on the NISD website. For the 21-22 school year, district accreditation statuses were not issued. Accreditation was last issued in 1920, and we're anticipating it being issued in 22-23. You see that the district campuses received a host of academic achievements and distinctions of which we're very proud. Most of those distinctions are at the master's level of STAR, which we know is higher proficiency. Finally, we met the requirements for special education compliance. The next slide shows the financial standards report. This is out of PEAMS, and it's these particular items that are meant to be shared. You see again the revenues in the general fund and then the expenditures. And as is typical, the largest expenditure is around payroll. So many of you know that House Bill 3 requires districts in each campus to set performance goals for third grade. What this shows goals set at the MEETS level, and you will see that our students outperformed the goal in third grade reading, and although we didn't outperform the goal in third grade math, we made over 9% gain. When we look at Northside STAR across all passing levels, we'll see that students in reading and social studies excelled above the state and above the region. We still have some work to do in math and science. In most cases, we either met the state or we were slightly below the state by a couple of percentage points. The next requirement is information on violent or criminal incidents. What probably jumps off the page to you is the line that talks about felony controlled substances that is directly related to the vaping that we've seen grow. All of the other ones, these are all instances that happen in alternative school. What you see on the next slide is that we had about 50% of graduates in 2020 attend the Institute of Higher Ed. And those who did, the majority made a 2.5 grade point average or greater, which we were happy about. So as I mentioned before, this actual report is about 32 pages long that really digs into each grade level data, and you can access that report on our website.
Thank you, Dr. Jordan. I know that this agenda item for the public hearing had been discussed in academics yesterday. Mr. Medina, as chair of academics, are there any comments that you'd like to
Yes,
make?
ma'am, I'll share. Wow, that was really fast. Our meeting actually lasted 3 hours, and it's really detailed, and there is a lot of work. It goes back to our classrooms. It goes back to our custodial workers, our teachers, administrators, everyone inside the building, all the people that make this district great. And so though this is a snapshot of academic success, it is one that we didn't get any kind of rating and so forth, but we look to positive outcomes in the future. But at the same time, that was, wow, that was quick. we got the really
Well,
deep.
remember we had about 6 other items
Okay.
on that agenda. This was
This
one
was
of
a long
7.
item as well. So, there's a huge amount of thank you on your part, your department, Dr. Jordan, and all our teachers and students.
Thank you, Mr. Medina. Any questions or comments from the rest of the board? Okay, seeing none. Next item on the agenda is superintendent's report. Dr. Woods.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Freeman, members of the board, several things to report to you tonight. Just in many cases, some thank yous to staff and students and others. Do want to thank Taft High School for hosting our annual board dinner at the end of the month of January. Did a really fine job. We got to see some nice, really nice, well-done fine arts performances, and of course, we're hosted by the culinary students with a really nice meal, so thanks to them. Also late last month, we had, and Ms. Chumley may want to say some more, what I would call an extremely successful Gerlach sale for our students in the agriculture science program. Did very, very well, funded a lot of college scholarships for young people, and I was really pleased to be there and pleased to see the members of the business community who continue to come out and support that year over year. Thanks to our PTA council, our wonderful PTA council, as well as Marshall and the Law and Medical Services Magnet for hosting us for Founders Day. I thought that Marshall kids did a fantastic job with the program, and of course their fine arts instructors as well. That was, as always, a really enjoyable event. We have had now, I believe, 7 either 25th or 50th anniversary celebrations this year. It's been a really busy year for that, and it was nice to go to the the Myers 25th and the Adams Hill 50th anniversary. Even in Northside with 125 schools, 50 years, that's a big deal. That's a long time for a school to be around, and still looks like a really nice building, really fine school. Do want to thank again, Marshall High School for hosting us at a community meeting and a bunch of community members, to include students, parents, administrators, and so forth. Mr. Ortega was there. It was a really nice event. When the Excellence in Education Committee came to Northside because of the board's selection as a finalist and interviewed the community. It was a really nice meeting, I thought, and it was enjoyable to just sit and kind of the back of the room and listen to the conversation. I want to thank Kim Ridgely, Dr. Ridgely, and her staff. They did the annual Be Well, Stay Well event for staff wellness. Thought they did just a really fine job. It was really interesting to see staff from kind of all job classifications come to that event. It was extremely well done. I do want to congratulate our mid-year graduates. We host a graduation in late January, early February each year, where we recognize those students who are graduating in the middle of the year or needed a little extra time to graduate from the year before. We also have students in our GED program who walk the stage and are recognized at that event, so that was nice as well. Big congratulations to our own Monica Falkenberry, who's in the room, our Assistant Director of Communications. Got to go to Dallas and surprise her as she was given the Texas School Public Relations Association President's Award, recognizing her help in Uvalde after that tragedy last spring. And it was really, it was very touching to be there, and I think extremely well-deserved, Monica. It was my honor to be there, really was. So I mentioned that the board is an Education and Excellence finalist, and we have two others, and they are both teachers. Carol Hudson is a longtime kindergarten teacher, and she has been recognized, as she's been recognized many times. I think she's been the Trinity Prize winner. She's really exceptional. And then a young teacher, Genesis Segura, a science teacher at Jones Middle School, have been recognized as finalists in the state in their respective categories. And just like the board, they will hear about those awards in late April, and I'm sure that they will highly anticipate that event. Just this past weekend, the state academic decathlon meet occurred, and we have two congratulations to go. Marshall High School was the Super Quiz champion, state champion. So congratulations to Marshall. They were also the third highest scoring school in the entire state. And in a different division, because they measure it by size of student population, Health Careers High School, for the second year in a row, will advance to the Academic Decathlon Nationals, where last year they actually won it. They were national champions last year. So excited for Health Careers. Hopefully they will defend that national championship coming up next month. And so, I know that was quick, but I had a lot. So, video moment. So, February is Career and Technology Education Month. So, tonight we're going to look at the welding program at Clark High School. This is one of our Level 1 certificate programs in Northside.
When it comes to education, sometimes the best learning tools are loud, hot, and messy. This is the welding class at Clark High School. And this is one of only a few dual-credit career and technical education programs in San Antonio, and the only dual-credit welding program in the city that allows students to earn a Level 1 welding certification. That means they're eligible for higher-paying jobs straight out of high school.
Straight out of high school.
But welding instructor Gerardo Rodriguez says, be warned. If you want to learn here, get ready to do some hard work.
The kids who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty, to smell like metal, to sweat, this is the place for you.
It's a lot of hard work.
This is Jack Heaney's first year in the welding program. Growing up, Jack, like many kids, figured the only thing to do after high school was go to college. Well, in this class, he's learned something new, something he loves, and something he hopes to one day make into a career.
It's great to be able to show into trade school that you did welding in high school, so it kind of gives you an advantage of the other group that hasn't done it.
And for those who think welding is just for boys, well, they haven't met high school junior Alexandra Fernandez.
It's very intricate, and you have to really perfect it. So because of that, I just think I like it a lot.
Alexandra says she's considering medical school after graduation, but after this class, she'll always have a special place in her heart for welding.
I was thinking maybe I could do welding as a side job.
Gerardo says welding is a solid choice for those who do want to turn it into a career.
By being guided the right way, by dedication, by doing hard work, being ready to work every day, you can be very successful.
No matter their futures, whether it's welding, medical school, or countless other careers, Gerardo, a fourth-generation welder, says he hopes the kids leave this class knowing they have options. And if they pick up a little respect and love for the welding industry in the process, well, that's just a bonus he's glad to pass on.
We make stuff from nothing to something, and that's what I like about welding.
Thanks for watching this video from Northside Media Productions. Northside is San Antonio's premier school district of choice.
Very nice.
Yeah, so for anybody who knows what the wage market looks like for a certified welder, you'd understand perhaps why going straight to college may not be the best path for some of those young people. That is incredible employment in the current environment for sure. So thanks for that. All right, Ms. Freeman, that concludes Superintendent's report.
All right, Dr. Woods, thank you. Next item on the agenda is board members' report. Mr. Lopez?
Thank you. Just a few items. Had a chance to, as you all remember, Clark High School and Marshall High School had formed a cricket team. Both David Epson and then the coach for Marshall High School. Well, they had their second game this weekend, and it was really neat. It wasn't as cold as it was last time, so it was bearable. and actually, it was really interesting because there were some more people that got involved, and so seeing the crowd get bigger and bigger as the momentum is building for the cricket team, it really was exciting to see that, and the kids were really excited to see the crowd grow. On this game, apparently Clark High School won. So I still haven't quite gotten the concept of the scores yet. I'm still learning that concept, but they won, so it was a good thing. So that was good to see and to be able to see the kids win there and seeing that success grow. Also wanted to mention that I had a chance to participate with at Jim Martin Elementary School, J.J. Perez, and the community liaison at that school, Isaac Gomez. And what they did is every month they're trying to engage the grandparents, the parents, and then bring in community organizations to help and inform the grandparents and families there in the boundaries, in the campus boundaries. And so I was there on Friday. Had a chance to introduce myself and meet with some of the grandparents that were there. It was really good to see, and in fact, I forgot to tell you this, Melissa, but one of the grandparents was very proud because his granddaughter was raising chickens. She was raising chickens, and I said, wow. I said, that is really neat to see, and she was so proud. I think she goes, they mentioned that, that they had like 6 eggs. I forget how many she had, but they had 6 eggs, and I said, man, you're saving yourself some money, and she was so proud. And so I encouraged her to look at Saul Ross, for that, and then to the agricultural program. So it was really good to see that, and I said, so we've got a future agricultural student coming up, so that was really good to see that. And then I just want to say, congratulations to Monica on your award. Well deserved. You've done so much for us at Northside in our communications department, and you're always there taking care of us and preparing our scripts and making sure we have our points on, when we're speaking. So thank you so much. Congratulations on your award. And to our teachers, Genesis and Carol, those are well-deserved awards. It's hard being in the classroom, and your commitment to our kids and to our students. This award is just the tip of the iceberg, and so congratulations to you on those awards. And that's it for my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Saldana?
All right, you know that I love basketball, that I go to a lot of games, so guess what? Out of all the schools that started at the beginning of basketball season, there are 4 left, and Clark is still in it. So they will be playing in the state championship girls basketball on Friday night. So good luck to the Lady Cougars. We hope that they'll make it again to Saturday night. They'll play at 8:30 in the Alamo Dome. And then we have the boys' regional quarterfinals going on right now at Northside Gym. We have Brennan and Taft and Harlan and Warren that are playing tonight. So good luck to all those students and coaches and their parents. This is an exciting time for them. We attended Robert Harris's retirement celebration, and that was a lot of fun. It was good to see the support that he had from his faculty. And then to the Oak Hills Terrace Student Council, fifth graders. They were the officers. They had me over for lunch, and then they had me take a tour of the campus. And I sure hope the PE coordinator has gotten their tetherball fixed, because that was what they wanted to see fixed on their campus. Our mid-year grads, we were so proud of all of them. And then I also attended the Sol Ross Boeing presentation of laptops for over 40 of our students at Sol Ross. They did a Boeing, I think we talked about it last month, but they worked with Boeing in the Avid class, and the kids finished their project and got laptops. So thank you, Boeing, for that. Again, Dr. Woods already mentioned the Meyer celebration and the Taft dinner that they had for us, the Founders Day. And Monica, congratulations. Thank you so much for all you do for us. Thank you.
Dr. Harrell?
Thank you. Thanks. So I'll go kind of backwards. So Friday night, all the authors came in for Library Palooza, and we took them to eat. And I was telling the story earlier that I wanted to give them some Northside swag so that they would be so excited to not only talk to our kids, because none of them had been before, and just being there with kids who think that they're rock stars, who love books with paper. And there's no technology. Nobody walks around with their phones except to maybe call their mom or dad to come pick them up. But they were there eating, and so I went and picked up a swag bag from Stan Lang. And I looked in there at the last minute, and they were like golf shirts. And they're really nice golf shirts, but I don't play golf. I would have thought this is nice. Maybe I could repackage it, regift it. If I would have gotten one, but anyway, so I'm passing them out, and everyone's being so kind and wonderful and just so excited about the Library Palooza. And the next day, I wasn't really paying attention and didn't notice till after Library Palooza the next day that one of the gentlemen got a really nice woman's golf shirt, and he was so proud of it, and he tweeted it out, and he had like 1,500 followers, and here he is with this shirt, and he was very proud of it. So somehow it all worked out. And then there was a lady that got a shirt, and you kind of overthink things sometimes, and she goes, I always wanted to take up golfing. I always want, so maybe we encourage something, but they had the nice Northside logo on them. And anyway, they had a set of clothes just in case their luggage got, didn't come to their hotel. But the next day, oh my gosh, hundreds and hundreds of kids, mostly from Northside, but other districts were invited as well, were mesmerized in these sessions where the authors not only talked about their books, but talked about their journey to writing a book. And many of them had incredible stories. We were all very emotional in this session where one of the authors was talking about the Central Park Five. And she had started out as a reporter, but then decided that there was more to reporting, just the 5 Y's and a W, or the 5 W's and a Y, or how, who, what, when, where, why, and how. But anyway, it turned into a very powerful story, and everyone had read it in the room, and it just was very emotional. But a lot of kids saying thank you, that they, during COVID especially, that books were their community, and they felt connected. And so just, if you haven't ever gone, I encourage you to do Library Palooza. Now I want a Library Palooza for the littles. So we'll work on that, right? Special Olympics is all this week. Special Olympics, everybody, it's great. The kids are getting parades at their schools, the champions, right? They're already champions because they're participating. So if you don't have anything to do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, go to Special Olympics. Saturday is the John Jay STEM Fest from like 10 to sometime in the afternoon. It's the most incredible family affair. The John Jay SEA students actually plan and carry it out. And it's everything from rockets to strawberry DNA, all kinds of things. And so that's just incredible. The Adams Hill 50th anniversary, oh my God. Who were those MCs? These two kids, oh my God, you just want to package them up and already sign them up for Cast Teach because they were so incredibly gifted in the way they presented information and their jokes, their timing was right on. It was just phenomenal. I think one of the nicest stories that night is that there were 3 generations of Adams Hill families. There was a teacher who had gone to Adams Hill, a daughter of the teacher, and then the teacher had gone to Adams Hill, and then her mother was there. And as a longtime Adams Hill volunteer, so it was incredible. HEB, you guys did tremendous at the HEB. I was never more proud of, I'm always proud of us, but I was really, really proud that day and proud of the people who came to talk about Northside and talk about the board, and we want to thank them. We had teachers, students, we had principals, we had really cool people, and Marshall was tremendous. Melissa, it was so much fun dressing 60s style with you, go-go boots, and then long hair at Founders Day. That was an incredible gift. So even though you and I didn't dress like that during that time period of John Marshall, I maybe saw it on TV and Rowan Martin's laughing and thought, yeah, wouldn't that be cool? But we did a good job, so thank you. And then Ross, I think what I really liked about the Boeing and Ross partnership is when I walked around, I think Corinne was with me at one part of it, but when we were walking around, the confidence in the kids, their shoulders back, their head up, it wasn't like reading the PowerPoint slide. They really knew their craft, their stuff. It was their craft. They were just tremendous, and I think the greatest gift is the partnership, right? We know that the teachers and staff and leaders at Ross, it can't go on without that kind of partnership with a community partner like Boeing, and so it was just a really good impact. But then listening to the parents in the background, pretending that, you're not listening, but you're listening, and hearing them say how tickled they were for their kids, and yeah, free laptop. I mean, that was priceless. Anyway, I'll stop while I'm ahead, but incredible month.
Ms. Chumley?
So I want to thank all of y'all that we have all been at some of these events together. It has really been a lot of fun over the last month in February. Just amazing things happening in our school system. So the only thing I wanted to tell just a little bit on Robert Harris's breakfast. It was supposed to be a surprise, and of course Robert came in the back door, like an hour before, so that didn't work. But Mr. Payne, who's the construction careers person, so Robert had a habit, this was what he did every morning, is they had a bench at the very front of the school, and Robert would sit there and say hello and good morning to all the kids as they walked in. And he was teasing about he was gonna have to take that bench with him, so they actually made him his own bench and presented that to him. And it was just a great recognition of just a really tremendous man. It was lots of fun. Carol, I have to tell you quick, so Carol, when we dressed, so Mr. Tobias, I'm going to tease you. So I had this long wig on, we were doing I'm not sure what we were doing, but I felt like a go-go girl. I did the 60s, anyway. So I'm walking in, and Eric is walking in with me, and you can tell he was like, oh, hello, And I'm thinking, he didn't have a clue who this is. And it was wonderful. I just kind of played along with him until he finally was like, oh my God. Anyway, thank you for encouraging us to do that. My husband sent a picture to my kids, and they said, "Mom, please don't go out in public like that." But it was a lot of fun, and Founder's Day was just phenomenal. Oh my gosh, the student performances and the two MCs were just amazing. They knew exactly what they were doing. So I want to thank PTA Council and those two young men. So, Walter Gerlach Livestock Show, I do not know how we continue to do it, but we raised $1,600,000, $1.6 million for 325 lots that went through the sale. And I just, I was amazed. And as Brian said, it is a huge thank you to our business community and our parents, and just, I mean, we have lots of families that come out and support not just their child, but other children. And what's really neat is we have students that went through the program, have now come back as adults and are supporting the program. And so that was just really neat, really neat. So I want to thank all the board too for all of y'all's support and all the staff that came out. But it was just a phenomenal sell, and I don't know how we keep doing it year from year, but I'm excited about what comes next. Taft, just real quick, I'm not a vegetable eater, but that squash soup, that their culinary department, and they had prime rib, that, I mean, it was better than any steakhouse that I have gone to. So I just wanted to do a shout out to Taft's Culinary Arts Program for the board dinner. That was really, and the presentation, the plates had all the, you know, how they're supposed to look in foo-foo restaurants. Anyway, it was really great. They did a phenomenal job, and so I want to, recipes. Oh, that's a reminder. We need to tell Marty that we wanted the squash soup recipe, so we need to get that. So one thing I wanted to mention about cricket is I now know that it's a batsman who is the batter, and it's a bowler who is the pitcher, and home base is a wicket, which are those three things that they bat in front of. And if you hit the wicket, then the batsman is out and they can't come back to the game. So far, it's pretty much the extent of my knowledge about cricket. But I was real excited to talk to Mr. Empson, and I haven't told the superintendent about this yet, so I guess I'll ask him about it now.
Perhaps not in an open meeting.
I really think it would be great if we had a cricket tournament with Marshall, Clark, Brandeis, who is forming a team, Roosevelt, and Lee. And I love that overwhelmingly positive response from Dr. Woods. But
I will talk to staff.
we're going to work on it, Brian. Let me see. And then, so I had a visit with Villarreal. Oh my gosh, guys, that's an amazing school. And they have ESL in every class, because they have an overwhelming number of languages spoke. The one class that I went in, which was a 5th grade class, they had 12 languages. They had Russian, French, 2 types of Indian dialect. I mean, it was amazing, and those kids were just, the teachers are just phenomenal. I really don't know how they do it, but they were so positive, and the kids were just, you could tell were learning and engaged, and it was a great visit. But I got invited there, and so I wanted to do a shout out to Roxanne Gutierrez, the principal, Linda Guzman, the vice principal, who actually had been at Saul Ross, Evelyn Cavillo, the principal's secretary, and then I was made an honorary member of the Villarreal broadcast team with Mrs. McNabb and Ms. Rico. And the kids did an interview with me, and they had really good questions, and it was just a great experience. And so I've got to stand up, because I promised them that I would wear my Villarreal broadcast. So I am an honorary member of it, and I told them I would wear it to the next board meeting. And then there's, of course, our very humble superintendent, who will always talk about other people's awards, but Dr. Woods was awarded the Golden Deeds Award from TASA And of course, Texas A&M. I told him he's going to start whooping pretty soon here. And it is an outstanding award. I mean, it's one that very few people get, and it's for all of what he has done for public education, not just in our school district, but throughout the state and the nation. So, Dr. Woods, congratulations, and that was wonderful. And then I'd like to just ask for a moment of personal privilege, because I'm going to step down to the podium so I can introduce someone to you. So I would like to ask Amy Trimble, the head coach at Orange Theory, to stand with me. So this is just a wonderful example of what a company can do to help our schools. So Orange Theory is involved with Saul Ross. And so I put pictures at all of y'all's sites of just some of the things that they do. So I'm going to tell you just real quick. So it's been 4 years since Orange Theory partnered with Saul Ross. In August, Amy advocated for members to do a school supply drive that included backpacks and tons of supplies, and there's a picture of that. In November, she started a food drive for their food pantry and kept it full for them throughout up to the holiday season. In December, she initiated a Pay It Forward. Members adopted kids and families for Christmas. Hundreds of families have benefited from this. And then in May, she does a tennis shoe drive. So Irene, the community liaison, has a closet full of tennis shoes that will fit any student with a pair of new or gently used tennis shoes. And I was there one day when this young man walked up, and he had his shoe taped together, and he was walking into class, and Irene grabbed him and said, "Come with me," and went over to this closet full of shoes and gave him a new pair of tennis shoes. So I just wanted to tell you, thank you for all that you do for Saul Ross. We very much appreciate you. And I just have a certificate for me thanking you for your exemplary support of Saul Ross Middle School. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then I just want to say real quick, thank you to Irene Zinsmeister and Mr. Ortega and Ms. Yeager for coming this evening. I know that everyone on this board, in fact, in the district, gets tired of me constantly bragging about all of y'all. But thank you for all that you do in thinking outside the box for our kids. Just like this example of this partnership with Orange Theory. There are so many companies, if we will just look for them, that want to be out there to help our kids. And it's just finding a way to establish that relationship. So anyway, thank you again. Thank you, guys.
Mr. Blunt?
Well, you know, when we went by Taft, I'd suggested our board could challenge their bowling team. Y'all didn't take me up on that, but following Melissa's lead, we could form a cricket team. Not quite. All right.
Now that would be worth seeing.
Saturday looks like it's going to be a pretty busy day. We also are having our Department of Energy National Regional Science Bowl Competition on Saturday morning. This is the first time in person in about 3 years that we've had that. I think, as you all know, the winner of that goes on to the national competition. This is probably the biggest event that Department of Energy has from a STEM sense, and we've had it for 21 years here. And it's been great. Northside Secondary has been very, very supportive, just to put it lightly. And that competition actually includes public, private, charter, and homeschool. So it's a really, really good event to watch. And similar to Orange Theory, I do want to thank one other corporation. I know we have so many that we definitely thank for the activities, but Booz Allen really steps up for that. They make the event free for all the students. They're going to have about 50 volunteers there at 7 a.m., so you can make our event since it starts before 10 a.m., and they'll be helping out. So that's really great. And the Air Force Cryptologic and Cyber System Division, as well as my company, MITRE, also be heavily engaged. So it's a really good partnership and really great event for all the students across San Antonio. Go Public is actually having Night at the Spurs that evening too. So that's something else that we look forward to. The Spurs really enjoy having all the different districts engaging through our Go Public advocacy campaign. So that's another activity that's going to be on Saturday night. One other item sort of related to the Go Public, from our board to know, our Bexar County School Board Coalition, as you all may recall, we had taken on the challenge of writing a children's book. And we are going to write it about what is a trustee, and it's been great. You know, what our different board members here have been very engaged with that, but working with all the different school districts from Edgewood to Church-Cibolo, the South Side, the Southwest, et cetera. We'll see how we do, but that's the big challenge that we've also accepted and took on. I also want to pass on the thanks and congratulations to both Monica and Dr. Woods. I'm glad you all suggested that, but congratulations to each one of them. And thank you.
All right. So a lot's been going on in the last, oh, I'm sorry. I apologize,
And it's
Mr.
very
Medina.
redundant. I know that a lot of these have been shared tremendously. Monica and Dr. Woods on your awards and success. I also wanted to piggyback on Adams Hill's 50-year anniversary. Not only did Ms. Robinson present the campus very well, it was a welcoming environment, and as Dr. Harold shared, there were 3 generations of patriots there, and once a patriot's always a patriot. It is a neighborhood I grew up in, Adams Hill. I lived just down the street from there, so it was really nice to be there again. As well, I wanted to kind of go over, February has been I want to make sure teachers and students know that we are always there for them, and February is a month for love, but sometimes it could be some of those relationships get a little rocky, so I want to just kind of recognize that. So, but Mother Nature did give us 2 days to catch our breath early in the month. I also want to just do a public announcement. There's 2 things. One, the NEF fundraiser is ongoing. Registration is open till March 6th, so definitely look forward to that. It is family fun. It is on April the 1st, early in the morning, and we know that springtime in San Antonio is a wonderful time to get out there and get a really good run-in. As well as we talked about cricket and so forth, Marshall's first inaugural Cultural Diversity Day is this Saturday, 8 a.m., and that will show our diversity throughout our district. And as we shared before, one thing that we pride ourselves in our culture as a board is not only are we elected in certain districts, but we represent all 102,000 students. And so you'll see many of us overlapping and being there for students and our teachers throughout the entire district. And so I wanted to make sure we kind of cross over and are there to be cheerleaders and champions for our teachers. Lastly, I wanted to thank Mr. Galindo's department and our Northside Leadership Academy. There are some this time of the year, and throughout the year, there's a lot of opportunities. The ceiling's really high in the district, and so it is not only a district for student learning, but it's also for teacher growth mindset and professional development. And I wanted to thank Galindo's team and the Northside Leadership Academy for always working toward the forefront and predicting and building up those future leaders in that pipeline. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Medina. I look around, okay. It has been a very busy month. Just a couple of other items, though, one really big one. It was this past week, last week, TASA and TASB coordinated a legislative conference, and Corinne and Kelly Rasty, our GR director, I don't know if she's in the room, we went to the Capitol and visited several of our state representatives. And that was a very interesting time at the Capitol. I think we learned a lot Ms. Saldana, I think we put on, I think there was a lot of steps on my phone, but it was really a good day and a good opportunity to, again, touch base with our delegation that represents us here in Northside. And congratulations to PTA, too. I know they had PTA Rally Day yesterday, and our PTAs, along with PTAs across the state, met at the Capitol and did very similar things, like meet with our state reps. And last but not least, one of the very most important job of a school board is to select and hire a superintendent. And you know that Dr. Woods has announced his retirement, and we've been very busy also in the last month and a half or couple months interviewing candidates from, we had 34 candidates from 8 different states. We selected some to interview. We called some back, and as you all may know, yesterday we announced the lone finalist, and that was Dr. John Kraft from Killeen ISD. So we will soon be very welcoming Dr. Kraft and his family. His wife is a PE teacher, and so she'll be looking for, she can't work here because Dr. Kraft would be employed, but she will be looking for a job, we think, in the near vicinity. And he has 2 children, 2 high school children, and so they will be going to one of our high schools. So we look forward to welcoming their family and congratulate Dr. John Kraft. And I think that would be it. Next item on the agenda is, help me out, is citizens to be heard. And as soon as I find my script. We believe citizens to be heard is important and meaningful, and we will listen to what you have to say. We value your opinions, although we were restrained by law from taking any action. We ask that you please address your remarks to the board, confine your remarks to a North Side policy or practice, and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. At 3 minutes, you will be asked to wrap up your remarks. Our board secretary, Ms. Saldana, will hold up a yellow card at 2 minutes, so you'll know that it's time for you to wrap up. And then at 3 minutes, she will hold up your red card, and that means your time is up. We ask that you do not make any personal attacks on any individuals. Our first person to speak, Dr. Woods.
Wanda Longoria.
Good evening. Wanda Longoria, President of Northside AFT. Tonight, I'm speaking about a current budget analysis review done by National AFT on our behalf, using the most recent information provided on the NISD website. We further filed an open records request for more information to our questions that we've not yet received. I've presented to you the full report in your folders, and we strongly invite you to study its contents and ask the hard questions necessary to get clear answers from the superintendent and cabinet. Some highlights of the report are revenues exceeded expenditures in each of the last 4 fiscal years. Given the extremely robust state of the district's reserves, these surpluses should be used for the purpose they're intended, for the benefit of current students and staff. The district's reserves are excessive. NISD reserves far exceed what's typically necessary for a large school district with stable enrollment and revenues. A fund balance to expenditure ratio between 15 to 20% is considered fiscally sound. NISD is at 49% of annual expenditures, which is excessive, and half of NISD's fund balance is unassigned. Administration costs are growing faster than instruction. Admin costs have been increasing faster than instructional expenditures, including an 8.5% increase in 2021 when NISD posted a small surplus of $60,000. General administration expenses grew 18%, while instructional expenditures increased only 5.3%, with most of that increase occurring between 2019 and 2020. Enrollment is stable at 102,000 students and does not project enrollment declines in the coming years. conservative budget practices. While the district's 2023 budget anticipates a deficit of $62 million budget to actual, data in the district's audited financials show that NISD has a tendency to significantly overestimate expenses and in some years to underestimate revenues. In 2022, when the district underestimated revenues, the district had budgeted for a $19 million surplus in its final budget. 2022 revenues came in under budget, but the district still posted a $21 million actual surplus. Due to these inaccurate budget practices, it's difficult to determine how predictive the 2023 budget is, especially given the district's stable enrollment and history of enormous surpluses. Cost of living increases remain high. Though inflation showed signs of slowing at the end of 2022, the 12-month percent change to the Consumer Price Index for the West-South Central region was still 6.7% higher than the U.S. city average rate of 6.5. When we brought these concerns to you in the past during our ask for a living minimum hourly wage for auxiliary staff with compression models, this board did not listen to our calls, and we brought to you our initial reviews of the budget indicating excessive surplus. We were told we were working in a deficit. Today, our members and potential members in Northside ISD call for this board to get answers to the questions still looming in this report and others that we'll be bringing to your attention. We've warned you of staffing crisis was coming, and we reiterated it until the compensation package was voted on. The crisis is now here. NISD is direly short of teachers and auxiliary personnel in all of our departments. Until this is addressed appropriately, our students, staff, and community will suffer. I thank you.
Anthony Rogers.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Anthony Rogers, and I'm a grandfather of 5 students in NISD. By the way, the schools are excellent. The teachers and staff are excellent, and I'm very happy with them. Before I start my discussion regarding the hourly wage of $15 per hour, I would like to say this. As I sat down here and listened to you about the different events in February, I was just absolutely amazed of all the different type of activities. And I want to thank every board member for taking your time and your effort to spend with our students, our children. I want to thank the superintendent for that. I think it's just absolutely wonderful. So I do want to thank you all for your time. I'm here to speak about the hourly wage. Today, in all areas across the United States, a single adult with children needs at least $31,200, what a full-time worker making $15 an hour would earn annually to achieve a modest but adequate standard of living. We're talking about standard of living. That's not very difficult to understand. NISD is blessed with excellent employees, and these employees deserve to be provided with a wage that meets a modest, adequate standard of living or greater. More so our teachers. We need to be more competitive, but at least $15 an hour for those employees making less than that. Although I understand the budgetary process is important, I support the use of NISD reserve funds to ensure that an adequate standard of living wage is provided. Hence, please consider amending the 2023-24 budget to ensure a minimum $15 an hour wage for every employee in NISD making less than $15 an hour. Again, I want to thank you for your involvement with our students. More likely, you've probably been involved with one of my grandkids. And thank you for your consideration.
Carmen Martinez.
Good evening, school board members, Dr. Woods. My name is Carmen Martinez, Dr. Carmen Martinez, and I'm here today to also speak about the staff pay raise, this current staff pay. First, as a parent, I'd like to say that I have seen the outstanding efforts of my son's educators to help them learn and grow here in Northside. One of my sons is autistic. He is in middle school, and he's also gifted and talented. His base teacher at Rayburn Middle School goes above and beyond every day to ensure that he knows he is loved and valued. As a result, he's having an outstanding year. As a high school teacher at Jay, I do my best to also show the same care for my students. Likewise, our auxiliary staff does the same. Our custodians, nutrition staff, bus drivers do their best every day. Given the rising costs of inflation, I believe that our district employees deserve a pay raise. We have a healthy budget to do so. Additionally, in our district, we tout the word family. How can we say we are a family when some of our members struggle to make ends meet or support their own families because they are paid below the level of poverty? It is discouraging and disheartening. If we do not rectify this, my fear is that our staffing crisis will worsen because hardworking individuals will look at other districts or places of business that pay well and put their well-being first. For example, I have heard from former colleagues in Southwest ISD and Judson ISD that they not only received a pay raise this year, but have also planned on receiving 2 retention bonuses. Likewise, I've heard that Southwest and Edgewood ISD pay their auxiliary staff $18 an hour. We will lose our family if we do not change things quickly. We are the largest district in San Antonio. We must do better.
I think it's Albert Wallace. I apologize, Mr. Wallace, if I'm wrong.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Albert Wallace, head custodian at Jim Martin Elementary, employed here at Northside for 17 years. Thank you, board, for all your work and all the decisions you all make. Thank you, Dr. Woods, for your dedication. I wanted to speak and say that our entire custodian staff here at Martin Elementary has been truly dedicated to the students here at NISD. We feel we have not been compensated appropriately for our commitment to Northside. This past compensation that was passed was not fair to all, and the decision seemed to be rushed. I'm asking you all to really take in consideration of all factors that affect all of us in this day and time. Cost of gas, a dozen of eggs, the cost of living for all of us. According to 2020 data, Bureau of Economic Analysis, the average total personal consumption cost in Texas is $39,661 per year. Here's how it breaks down. Housing and utilities, $7,257. Healthcare, $5,793. Food and beverages, $3,309. Gas and energy goods, $812. And all other personal expenditures, $22,490. That's $3,305 a month per person on average. This is from 3 years ago in 2020 before eggs went up. I know this seems to be a lot, but the overall point is that we are struggling physically and mentally. These past years have been a big change and challenge for all of us. Please take deep consideration of all our custodians because other districts are watching and are ready to react to be one step ahead of the 4th largest district in Texas here at Northside. Northside should be a leader in custodian compensation. We seem to be the last of the districts in compensation and have lost some custodians along the way. We are working in deficit of custodians and need to be fairly compensated. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Madeline Garcia.
Hello, Board and Dr. Woods. Thank you for allowing us to speak today. I wanted to discuss that I was here about 3 years ago, bringing the discrepancies of the staff, the custodial staff, and I was asking for $15 raise at that time. And here we are again. And I've already seen, I've moved from my position from custodial to technology. But even there, we are still struggling with finances or raises. We keep asking for raises also. But custodial staff, I know, has been extremely not paid very well. And they have been struggling. And we've lost a lot of custodials from the time I've been to this time now. I would say we're at maybe about 300 custodials that we don't have for all Northside. So I wanted to say that the custodial shortage is just way too much. I believe that the discrepancies are just for raises. Some got raises more than others. The head custodians didn't get raises, and I think that that was not fair. Because I know when I was a head custodian, we worked very hard. Even when we had shortages, we worked over to maintain the school, which was extremely, extremely difficult when we had one sick or even somebody that we just couldn't hire because of the minimum pay. I just believe that we should really look into if we have this amount of expenditures to spend, that we should look into paying for our employees. Thank you.
Alfonso Valenzuela.
Good evening. I'm here to express my concern with the decision of the board that the board took with only approving raises for the regular auxiliary entry-level employees. I am a head custodian at Elrod Elementary, and during this hard, difficult time that we've been passing with the few employees that we do have, we've been picking up all the slack. And for you guys to reach the decision of excluding us during the raise, it really affects the morale of the whole campus. I've been working 10 to 12 hours when we don't have people there. We have to send people to other campuses, or we have to receive employees from other campuses. And I can imagine when they send employees to my campus, that campus struggles. And to put it short, we're the ones that are actually picking up all the slack, keeping the custodial afloat. And for you guys to take a decision of excluding the main part, it's really difficult for morale. And anywhere you go, a quarterback is the one that leads the team, that does the decisions, and gets the trophy. Here we got nothing. Nothing. And throughout every campus, I communicate with different head custodians, and we're all very upset, very disappointed. And to hear that admin got an 18% raise over the past 2 years when you guys have given us a 3 and now a 0, it's really disappointing to hear. I would plead with you to consider, please, giving us a livable wage. Thank you.
Linda Chapman.
Good evening. My name is Linda Chapman. This is my first time over in this location. I've spoke to you guys before at the other location because of COVID, and it's a lot more pleasant being over here, especially seeing all you folks without masks on. It really makes a difference to be able to see your faces. But it reminds me of what I saw back in the other location. I wasn't in the meeting that time, but I did watch live on the meeting of watching a mother being carried out in a chair, a father being arrested, all that for not wearing a mask. I witnessed at this board and many other different local boards, parents crying, begging to take the mask mandate away so their children wouldn't be forced to wear masks anymore. And I'm glad to see that there's finally a little bit of sensibility and those mandates have gone away, and I hope to God they never come back. But what I'm here to talk to you today about is just because the worst part of the COVID thing is still around here because it's about the vaccines now. I sent all of you an email this morning that I included links to 2 different one is an interview, first one is a documentary called Died Suddenly that Stu Peters did. And in that, he gets into a lot of the stuff, the phenomenon that the funeral directors are seeing now. And it's undeniable what they're seeing. So please watch the documentary. It's only about an hour long. And then the other link was to an interview of Tucker Carlson with Mr. Edward Dowd. Edward Dowd is the author of this book. This book is entitled Cause Unknown: The Epidemic of Sudden Deaths in 21 and 22. And and this book is available on Amazon for about $30. And I just want to read a little bit from the introduction of this book, of kind of what it's about. First of all, in this book, he does a lot of, it's very heavy on the research as far as it's the death research. It's nothing, pretty much just deaths. And it's about all-cause mortality. And all-cause mortality includes suicides, homicides, illness, whatever somebody died of, all cause. And I'll just talk a little bit about of what from the introduction of this book. It says by 2017, about 2.8 million Americans died. 2018 was about the same. 2019 about the same. Not surprisingly, 2020 saw a spike, smaller than you might imagine, some of which could be attributed to COVID and to initial treatment strategies that were not effective. But then in 2021, the stats people expected went off the rails. The CEO of One America Insurance Company publicly disclosed that during the third and fourth quarters of 2021, death in people of working age, 18 to 64, was 40% higher than it was before the pandemic. Significantly, the majority of the deaths were not attributed to COVID. A 40% increase in deaths is literally earth-shaking, and not only for the devastated
Ma'am, I'm
families
sorry,
and
your
communities.
time's up.
Thank you.
Pearl West.
My name is Pearl West. I'm a full-time child nutrition manager at Esparza Elementary. I've been employed by Northside for the past 6 years, and last year my gross income was $20,132.17. I'm a product of Northside. I attended Esparza Elementary, Salt Ross Middle School, graduated from Holmes High School in 2006, where Miss Corinne Saldana was president when I received my diploma. I went to attend college, gained real-world experience, but when I started my own family, I decided to come back to my alma mater and serve with the community I grew up in, only to realize that a commitment to Northside was a commitment to almost poverty-level wages. I served several hundred meals a day to hungry students, but I struggled to feed my own 2 children. A living wage is the amount of income determined to provide a decent standard of living. It should pay for the cost of living in any location. It should also be adjusted to compensate for inflation. The purpose of a living wage is to make sure that all full-time workers have enough money to live above federal poverty level. As it stands, with the 40 hours of work I put in a week, I cannot afford a 1-bedroom apartment anywhere in the state of Texas. The minimum wage was originally set to allow workers enough income to stay out of poverty. The minimum wage concept has failed because it has not kept pace with the rising cost of living, causing many working people to live below the poverty level. The federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, if it had been indexed to the Consumer Price Index since 1968, the minimum wage would have been adjusted to $10.15 in 2019. If it had kept pace with the worker productivity and been adjusted for inflation, in 2020 it would have been $24. In 2020, during the height of the pandemic, my staff and I worked curbside meals, serving in the blistering Texas summer heat without a working fan, and in the ice and snow with only a small heater that I bought with my money to keep my staff warm, until we got a heater from our department after the weather had warmed up. Despite these working conditions, we showed up day after day, fed the hungry, navigated new procedures, took more work, took great care not to spread any illness amongst ourselves or our students. And for this, our thanks was a one-time $64 incentive for my part-time worker who had been working full-time hours nearly the entire year, and $100 for myself and less for my staff. As a former Northside student, I am asking you to look into your hearts and abide by the pillars of character you preached to me as a kid. If you are approving building more facilities, it is your responsibility to ensure that everyone is already getting paid a living wage. Respect all of your auxiliary personnel by paying us fair wage for our work. Care enough to see that we are struggling to survive, living paycheck to paycheck. We are trusting you to do what's right. Thank you.
And that concludes citizens' spirit.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Woods. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion? Dr. Harrell?
I move we approve the consent agenda as is.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is under curriculum and instruction. Dr. Jordan, the District of Innovation Plan update.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. This also was an item we had at academics yesterday. And what we're bringing forward to you tonight is an update in the process. You had the opportunity to review the draft that the board-appointed District of Innovation Committee created over the course of 3 different meetings. So we just wanted to update the entire board of the process, and the goal then is we will be posting this particular plan to the website. So just as a quick reminder, the vast majority of Texas school districts are districts of innovation. And so this is not a new concept. Districts have been allowed to seek the flexibilities that these provide for many years. And so we have talked over several months with your direction about what flexibilities would we want to seek. There's a whole host of different flexibilities, but these are the 5 that the committee deliberated on and fleshed out a plan. So the first is the uniform start date. So some may not know, school districts are not allowed to have their first day of school before the 4th Monday in August. And so with most districts having District of Innovation, they're starting school in mid-August. They're starting school the 3rd week of August. And there's a whole host of benefits that we lose out on. The second is around teacher certification. Now, this is very specific. This does allow us to hire teachers who teach mathematics, English, without a certification as long as they're working towards it. It does not allow us to hire special ed teachers, bilingual ESL teachers, et cetera. Another area is the principal and teacher appraisal system. Currently, we have no plans to modify those at all, but as we continue over the next 5-year period, there may be the will of the board that we want to look at an appraisal system that better aligns, maybe with our strategic plan, with our learner profile, with a whole host of other things. And so having this in the plan allows us to do that if we so choose. The fourth is around probationary contracts. Currently, when teachers come to Northside, and they're new to Northside, they're put on a 1-year probationary contract. We have very high standards in Northside. So what this flexibility allows is us to put teachers who are new to Northside on a 2-year as opposed to 1-year probationary contract. What that means is that gives us more opportunity. If a teacher is struggling, the principal can work with that teacher over a 2-year period instead of a 1-year period. We can send central office supports to help that teacher. The last one is really low-hanging fruit. Part of the law is that individual campuses have to designate a person that is the campus behavior coordinator that's supposed to be dealing with all discipline. Well, this flexibility is we need more than one person dealing with discipline at campuses. So it allows multiple staff members to work with discipline. Now, there are a lot of dates on here and a lot of steps. I'll kind of group them together. The first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 we've already done. So throughout this process, we've been bringing ideas to get your direction to academics meetings. You approved, we had a public hearing, you appointed the DOI committee. We had the committee, as I mentioned, through 3 sessions draft a plan. So tonight, we're sharing with you where we are in this process. And then our plans are to post the plan tomorrow to the district website. We're working with the Office of Communications to perhaps send communication directly to the community. So they'll have that information along with a PDF where they don't even have to go to the website if they choose not to. Our Northside Education Improvement Council, we're meeting on March 7th. You know, that's elected and appointed members of the community, business leaders, parents, teachers. They're going to look at the draft and give us feedback. We will have an academics committee meeting in March. Once we close the public comment, because we have to have that for 30 days, we're going to come back to you and say, this is all the input. Then the plan is to bring to you for approval at the regular board meeting on April 25th. If it's approved, we literally submit it to TEA the next day, and the District of Innovation Plan is automatically approved.
Okay. Mr. Medina, as chair of academics, I know this is another agenda item.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. So I would just kind of share, thank you, Dr. Jordan, and all, Ms. Franco, for all your work. There are some statutes that go and tied into this, and then that are being proposed to assure that we have the flexibility to move in the direction and make this DOI effective for all our staff. And so not only are those meetings, as she shared, a number of meetings that have already taken place, and a number of meetings that are following. So it's great to have our NEIC feedback and communicating with them and the collaboration with those individuals. And so it's in the progress, and I think we're on the right track. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Medina. Mr. Lopez?
Thank you, Dr. Jordan. One of my questions, and it just consistently comes up on a regular basis, and you have mentioned it before, but any changes done once we approve or go forth with the District of Innovation, any changes that it's done to this program must come through the board, right?
Yes, sir.
You can either go through committee for recommendation and then go follow that whole process and then come into the board for final approval.
Yes, sir.
Am I correct? Okay, good. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Dr. Harrell?
Yes, real quick, I wanted to thank, because we also had representatives that gave up their time to review this, and so thank you for them. Nicole, you did a great job yesterday. That was outstanding. It really added a lot of clarity. I did have one last question. If someone wanted to give additional input, is this posted like on our website, or so they
Yes.
can, I know it has been, but is there a way for some questions to be answered?
Yes, ma'am. So actually, it is not posted yet.
Okay.
We wanted you guys to see the plan yesterday and then talk about it this evening. The plan is tomorrow.
Okay.
It will be posted on the website. In addition to that, we will be sending a communication out that will have a link to the plan, and we'll also have the document that you click on and that you literally type in your feedback.
Perfect.
So it'll be both ways, where people don't even have to go to the website if they choose not to, but they can go to the website. And again, we're getting all that smooth with the communications, and we're planning to go live tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much.
Ms. Chumley?
So I wanted to ask, maybe it's a very question. I find our website hard to maneuver and find things on. And so, Barry, I know you and I've had that conversation. I want to know where it's going to be on our website, and is it going to be where it's, on the header on the first page, where it's not something where you have to click to some other thing to go to someplace else to then find it. So it will be on the header at the very top, where they will be able to click for that, to get into that, and then they will also be able to look at it, but include feedback at that site on the website.
That is correct. It will be a header on the front main website. It will go to a DOI site that's created. It will have the link there, but we'll also send it out to stakeholders in email that will go directly to that Google Form link.
Okay, but like just right when you open the page up, you'll be able to see it at the very top or somewhere.
It has several windows that we change out, and one of those will be changed tomorrow that will direct them to District of Innovation.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Blunt?
Yeah, more of a comment than a question, because I know we've had a number of meetings about the DOI part of it. And we've considered this through the years on several different occasions, and I think it's interesting, timing-wise, with what sort of changed literally with the recruitment situations, with staffing, and the things that have impacted from COVID, et cetera, as well as the lessons learned from so many other districts that have gone through that. So I think the timing is really good right now. It really is, and I think it's appropriate. And for us to have the flexibility, we'll see how the final decision goes, but I'm glad we're considering it.
Thank you, Mr. Blunt. Do you have anything to say, Dr. Woods? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the 18-month ESSER update.
Yes, ma'am. So what's coming up is a brief PowerPoint. It's a requirement to update the use of ESSER funds every 6 months. So time is flying. We've done a 6-month update. We've done a 12-month update. So tonight is an 18-month update. This slide here shows the different types of ESSER. The first two, ESSER 1 and 2, are already spent. Districts had already spent those for many things of COVID mitigation strategies. So it's really ESSER 3 that directly impacts our students in our classrooms in terms of wraparound services, in terms of instructional interventions.
Just to be clear, the state spent our ESSER 1.
Yes.
Yeah. Just to be clear.
Yes, we never saw the money. They took it before we saw it. And so NISD was allocated over $173 million, just a little over $173 million in ESSER 3 funding. And so we were directed on how to spend it. And you see here, these are the 3 large categories. So as you might imagine, academic supports for students. We're changing the term learning loss, not to say learning loss, because how can you lose learning that you never had? More of the learning lag, which I will tell you is very real. And you may have seen it in your own homes, in your neighborhoods, but we're certainly making some progress in that area. So you see a whole host of things, most of it targeted interventions, many in mathematics and reading. Our earliest learners are the ones who seem to be the most adversely impacted. The second piece is around whole child supports. That encompasses a whole host of things, but think of it as wraparound services, counseling services, mental health services, even things, food, clothing, all those kinds of things that help our children and families. And then finally, health and safety, the things that we need with PPE. So the requirements of the 18-month review are basically 3 things. We have to do required postings, which those are already posted, and you go to the bottom of our website under required postings, and you'll see those. The other thing is we actually have a plan, and it's called Return to In-Person Instruction and Continuity of Services Plan. We don't name it that. We're told that's what it needs to be named, and we're told what needs to be in it. So we regularly update that plan with feedback. And the third is how are we progress monitoring the purchases? How are they impacting student learning? How are they impacting the health and well-being of our families in Northside? So throughout this process, we seek public input. And so the public input comes in 2 different ways. First, we have a committee called the FPAC Committee. That stands for Federal Programs Action Committee, and membership on that, it's a fantastic committee. We have parents, we have business leaders, we have community members, we have leaders in the foster care system, we have teachers, we have administrators, we have parents. And so this committee meets in person and virtual. We mix it up on a regular basis, and they give feedback from their particular roles. We also have a survey that goes out in district communication that basically asks 3 questions. One is, what are you most concerned about in terms of the district's COVID response? Again, not our question. We don't get to devise that question. Those are questions we need to ask. The second, what do you think the district's doing well? The third, where do you think the district needs to improve in terms of the COVID response? And so we had 201 responses. The majority of those were parents. And generally, what parents and those who responded are most concerned about is the learning lag of students, kind of the gap that they're seeing in student learning that we're really working to close. The second, what is the district doing well? A lot of compliments on how clean our buildings are, how safe our buildings are, and then what can we do better? It was basically continue to support teachers as they're trying to mitigate the learning lag. So this is our budget. Again, I'd mentioned $173 million, a little over that. To date, at the end of January 31st, or the end of January 2023, we're 44% spent of our ESSER budget, and the ESSER budget needs to be expended by September 30th, 2024. And so we do have that allocated. The majority of our allocations are monies that go directly to students in classrooms for learning. The next shows you, why 44%? Why not 54%? Well, we were very careful as to any positions that we wrote into ESSER because we know many of those will be going away when the funding goes away. So we have 393.5 positions that are funded in the ESSER budget. We have about 14%, which is 57 positions that are not filled. And the majority of those that are not filled are some of the ones that are really high turnover, like Learning Tree, which is an after-school program for our students. We also, out of 170 pre-K ECSE teachers, we have 22 vacancies as well. So we're continually looking at where are our vacancies and when are we going to wipe some of those out of the budget and then repurpose some of those ESSER funds that those vacancies are holding to initiatives that directly impact students. This next slide really shows you in descending order the large budget items for ESSER. So when you look at the categories, so the first is program expansion. We have been able, with these ESSER dollars, to ensure that every qualifying 4-year-old has a pre-K program to attend. We are very proud of that. The research is crystal clear about early learning and that our children need to be in our schools with highly qualified teachers. That has also allowed us to expand what we're doing for enrichment for students in some enrichment programs, and also ECSE, which is the special education component of pre-K. You're going to see also a lot of investment, no surprise, in mathematics and reading. We've made tremendous progress in our students' growth in reading. There are more students reading on grade level, but I will tell you, we took a hit over that pandemic time when so many students were learning remotely. Mathematics, we're still working that to get back to pre-COVID levels. We did do retention pay. So you see that was $14.2 million. And so you see where that falls in this particular listing. We have a lot of investment in social and emotional support for our students. I think it's no surprise. Families have suffered and are continuing to suffer, and we know those things come into the classrooms. We've seen increases in discipline incidents for students, especially among our youngest learners. So these resources are helping our teachers and helping our families. So just want to show you a couple slides. So when I'd mentioned progress monitoring, we're looking at, okay, so a big chunk of this money went into expanding pre-K and ECSE for our youngest learners. So what you see here on the left-hand side, you see the numbers of units that we have added each year. So again, all qualifying 4-year-olds have a full-day pre-K program to attend. If you look at the right side, that shows enrollment versus attendance. Coming off of COVID and during COVID, we took a hit with our youngest learners. With our many parents kept them home, out of concern for safety. So the kids are coming back. We want the young learners, but we still need them to come to school. So you see that we're working on ensuring that they're in school every day. This right here is data that's been shared at several board meetings. This is STAR data for last spring. And what I want you to notice is I want you to notice the difference column. So we're working to get back to pre-pandemic levels. And within 1 year, we got there in reading. So we feel very, very good about that. We're not going to stop there. I mean, we continue there, but we were able to do that. And frankly, we credit some of the training that have been provided to teachers. The next slide. This is an informal reading inventory. The way to read this shows the percentage of students reading on grade level. So that previous data that I showed you, that's last year's data, which is good to look at, but it really doesn't tell us much about this year. This tells us about this year. So the light blue bar shows where students were at the beginning of the year. The darker bar next to it shows where they are in the middle of the year. And even if you can't read the percentage, you can tell we're seeing more and more students reading on grade level and above. Starting at first grade. And this is mission critical because you can't get the other pieces until you get this piece. The next, we have a screener that's called the Measurement of Academic Progress that we use in mathematics. It's a nationally normed test that increases the rigor. So again, you see beginning of the year, and then you see middle of the year. So in some, you see a slight dip. This is typical because of the increase of the rigor, and also we actually change tests. There's a test that's a basic proficiency test, and there's a test that's aligned with STAR. So we typically start with basic proficiency, and when they take the second one, we do the STAR test. So here is our, again, mathematics data, old data. This is from last STAR, but again, this is through our work of our amazing teachers, our students, our parents who are supporting their students. Still have a long way to go. We're still not where we were pre-COVID, but we're closing that gap. And then this is the MAP data. And again, so we have measures of academic progress now in reading. It's the first year we've done this in reading, and we've been doing it in mathematics. And you see something similar. You see the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and the change between those. So these next two slides have to do with social and emotional learning services. So the SEEDS team is a team that really provides wraparound support to our students who are identified by counselors as needing a whole host of things. They may need academic support. They may need to have some clean clothes. They may need to take a backpack on Friday with some food home to their families. So what you see on the left-hand side is you see the, you see the students served. So that's the blue bar, and that shows you each month. Obviously, we have a dip at the beginning of the school year because we're getting to know who our students are. And then the Children's Bereavement Center is actually not a huge number of students we serve, but if any of you are aware of the Children's Bereavement Center, they do magical work. These are for our children who lose parents, who lose grandparents, who lose significant others. So you see the total students served at the top, that's the yellow line of the Bereavement Center, along with SEED students. And then on the right-hand side, that is going to show you what we had done last year. So we're really proud of this work. And, it was a great question at academics, how do we know this is working? Well, we look at a whole host of things, and I will tell you the number one thing we look at is, are they coming to school? So sometimes their math is not going to show growth immediately, their reading's not going to go, but are they coming to school? Can you sit down and talk to the child? Are they having, more confidence? So there are some of those indicators that ultimately should lead to reading. This next re-engagement team, this started with, as you might, and Northside was not unique in this, when COVID came and we closed schools, some kids didn't come back. Some entire families didn't come back. And so you probably saw it, those of you who are in our schools. And so this re-engagement team started as that. Let's get these families back to school. And you can imagine, it's more than just saying, hey, knock, 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 come to school. It's learning about what are the barriers for these families getting to school. What are the transportation issues? What are the basic need issues? What are the fear-based issues of, is my child going to be safe at school? So this team has been so successful that they're still working on kids who haven't come to school, but they've shifted their focus, and they're focusing now on the ones we already got back, but staying on them to come every day. Those who are racking up some absences that are too much. District attendance, again, is critically important because you cannot learn if you're not in school. Everything that I've described to you, you cannot get those services if you're not in school and connected to a school. And we know that our schools are the best place for our children to be. So as you look, this one shows district attendance percentage by month. Ignore the green line. That's when we were remote and attendance was taken in a way that the state told us to that was wonky. But what you can look at is you can look at pre-COVID, where our attendance line was, and then you can look at post-COVID. So we're bouncing back some, but we must get back to pre-COVID levels, even higher than that, because we know it's best for our students. Again, you see on the right, again, the average, and so you can tell how the bars are starting to go up, but need to go more. I think you remember see that big purple dip? It was about a year ago, January a year ago, when COVID spiked, and we had huge, huge absences, but thank goodness we didn't have that this year. So what are our next steps? We're continuing to work this plan. We're continually scrubbing this budget to see, okay, what do we need to repurpose for a way that best meets students' needs? And so we'll be coming back in August 2023. That will be the 2-year ESSA review, and we're going to do work to do a better job to get more wide-reaching feedback to make sure our plan is meeting the needs and the will of the community. And that is it.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Jordan. Ms. Chumley?
First, I want to thank you, Janice, for the time that you spent. We had a very long academics committee meeting last night, but I really appreciate the time. And I just wanted to share with the rest of the board, it was interesting, and you don't need to change to that page, but the preliminary STAR data in relation to English 1 and English 2, we saw a drop in 4 points, and there was an asterisk beside it about standards changed. And so we had a discussion in relation to you know, what is really meant by that, and how does that really impact our students? And I want to thank Jerry Woods, who went and found the difference. And I was thinking, well, if they're studying TEKS, and that with the standard changing, if it's one of the standards that we've just are testing on it when we weren't, that you wouldn't see this kind of change. But when Dr. Woods, the Jerry Woods, actually read us the question, it was a huge difference. It may have been asking the same things, but if I'm a student, and if I'm struggling at all with STAR, the change in the format of how that question was asked really made a difference. And so, because I was asking, well, we always hear the complaint that we're teaching to the test, and that's not the point. The point is we're teaching to TEKS, but you have to be able to let our kids learn or be exposed to what that format looks like and what those questions look like. And so I just appreciated that, because it really did show, to me, it brought out another fault in relation to STAR, but I really did appreciate that we did that deep dive in relation to that. So I just wanted to tell you thank you on that.
Dr. Harrell?
No, this is separate from the report, the ESSER Fund report, but I forgot to say, I don't know if it's a thanks, but it certainly is a thanks with a celebration that you were mentioning the social emotional, all the hard work that our teachers in schools are doing right now with ESSER funds. And even if we didn't have ESSER funds, it's been their focus. But how nice that now we have care clinics that, I misunderstood, and I went back and I looked again, and it's reporting that we got 4.5 million ARPA funds, but Kim said that ARPA funds can only be used in this case for students. But I think there was a replacement of some funds for something else. But that 27 employees have already used the counseling services free of charge in the evening or after school, which is great, just in 1 week. So taking care of those who take care of our kids, I know Esther wasn't kind of thinking that way, but we are. And I'm really tickled with that and proud. And so you'll pass on our thanks and celebration at the same time.
Thank you, Dr. Harrell. Mr. Lopez?
Dr. Jordan, really, I want to really compliment you on this. This is really good work. It's, we're seeing a progression and seeing the upward movement in this. And kind of piggybacking off of what Carol had said was, taking care of those who take care of our kids is so important. And we've always knew that, and we implemented that, and I can see us moving forward. I know it's going to be a struggle, right? But we're getting there, and I think that was the major thing for us is when bringing back our kids and bringing individuals back into the campuses. That was our goal, was to make them more comfortable, get them the services that they need, and the whole child, right, the whole family, and that was what was key. And it's good to see that we're targeting dollars where it needs to be, and that's for our kids and their families, right? Because when they go home with some food in their bag, they come back the next day, they're not going to be as angry or as grumpy. They're going to come back, they're going to be a little bit more settled, and that teacher will be able to manage them a little bit better. So, I really I really like the fact that those dollars are being specific for those areas. So my congratulations to you and your team and to the teachers that are doing this, and then our support services, those agencies that are providing those services. So, and I'm assuming those are under MOUs, but whatever the case is, it's great work. That's working with the community. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay. Ms. Chumley, did you have something additional?
I just had a question that came up last night, and Brian, I'll ask you if you can help us with it. So we've used some of our ESSER funds in in relation to facilities. And we were just wanting to know, Leroy, we got confused on, because I thought that in building, we said that they had to be used by September of this year, but, and
Yeah, so the ESSER two funds have to be allocated by September of 2023. That's the money we used for the HVAC projects at several schools.
Right.
The ESSER three funds, which is what Dr. Jordan's reporting on, is they have to be allocated by September of 2024. So you're operating under a different set of rules.
That was where we were confused, is we just had that question as to the facilities ESSER funds. We thought we had to have them done by September of this year.
Which is why we
We're really
bid those in
pushing.
such a hurry, right?
Yeah, pushing on that. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that because that question had come up
Two
last night.
different pieces of federal
on it.
legislation.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you very much. And thank you for your work on this. Next item on the agenda is under facilities and operations, schematic design, addition and renovation of Hobby Middle School magnet. Mr. San Miguel.
Thank you. As you may know, the district has implemented a middle school magnet program, starting with Jones and moving right to Zachary. The 2022 bond program provided for 3 additional middle school magnets. This evening, we are presenting our next magnet school at Hobby Middle School, emphasizing our health science program. Various district stakeholders have met to review and provide input in the design process. And Alum Architect is the architect for the project, and Mr. Jerry Lammers is with us today to present the schematic design.
Thank you, Leroy. Good evening, Madam President Freeman, members of the board, Dr. Woods. As Leroy said, we're here to talk about Hobby and the magnet program. So next slide, please, Monica. So we're going to show you the schematic design. First, I'm going to orient you on the site plan at the existing site there, show you some exterior pictures. We'll share some floor plans with you, and then finally some 3D sketches. So the existing site at Hobby, just briefly, the scope of our project and the bond is a new health science magnet program at Hobby. In addition to that, we're going to take care of some existing building envelope wall deficiencies and things like that, and some small, limited scope site circulation improvements. So this is Hobby as it is today. This is Vance Jackson and Heavener Road. Hobby originally was built in 73, and then it had a quick addition in 74, and then has been added on to several times since. The most recent project was science classroom renovations that were completed in 2021, so not that long ago. The main entry at Hobby is through this courtyard. So if you're a visitor, a parent, and you're coming to visit your child at Hobby, you come through this main courtyard and you're checked in at the admin area right here. The cafeteria is located here. This is classrooms. The science edition was done in the early 2000s. The library's in the middle of the campus, and the gyms are in the rear there. Next slide. And so what Hobby looks like now is really influenced by this new covered walk that was done now, I think 4 years ago. And one of the things they did that I want to point out is they introduced this kind of burgundy color brick to the existing palette that's here on the existing campus. There are a lot of trees at Hobby. It's a very wooded campus. This is the cafeteria. And this is where we're proposing to do the classroom addition. Next slide, please, Monica. So just some details about the brick, and this will be important when I show the 3D perspectives. The burgundy brick was introduced in the covered walk. Then there's glazed brick in these nice benches that the staff at Hobby really likes for when kids are waiting to be picked up by their parents. The other picture here, this is what you see when you enter the campus right now. So when you enter the campus, if you're coming off of Vance Jackson, this is what you see. And this is a picture of one of the typical covered walks here and some brick details. So now I'm going to show you where the addition is going to be. So the magnet addition will be in a two-story addition that's in front of the existing science addition and will connect to it. And one of the goals of this project is to redirect the new and create a new front entry for the school that they will be able to do a secure check-in. They won't, visitors and parents won't have to go through the courtyard to check in the main campus. The site circulation improvement we're going to make is this little connector right here. So as it is now, if you circulate through this parking lot and you can't find a spot, you have to exit Vance Jackson and come here and then come back in Huebner. And if the opposite is true, if you come in and you're in Huebner and you can't find a space, you can't get to these lots without coming out, going through the traffic light and coming back in. And what we're proposing to do is create a little connection here, so if you're in this slot and you see a space here, you can come over and grab it, or just the opposite. If you come here, you can go over and grab it. Now, there's a lot more parking back here, but it's not connected to any of the other spaces. The other improvement that we want to make is just to slide the entry over. Next slide, Monica. And the entry is very tight, and it's been that way for several years, so we're going to create a little more space so it's easier to get in and out if you're in a car. And the other thing we're going to do is ease this turn. So now with the new main entry right here in this new entry plaza and the connecting canopy, it'll be a little more gentle exit as you exit the space, and then if you have to recirculate. And we're redoing the parking lot and sliding it over slightly. Next slide. And now I'll show you the interior, the floor plan. So again, the new main entry with a plaza in the front and a new secure vestibule. So on the left side, all of this is the magnet program. On the right side, there will be the reception for the main school. So if you're coming to visit the main hobby school, you'll get checked in here and then be directed on to go to counselor's office or the classroom or the current admin area. Now, in the master plan, the goal is to move all of the admin area over to this area so they'll be across from each other. That's not currently part of our project. There'll be a new main lobby for hobby. Now there's not currently one. And then a new admin area for the magnet program. And then these are the magnet classrooms and science classrooms. So there's ELA classrooms, there's 3 science classrooms. We're repurposing 2 of the science classrooms that were just remodeled a couple years ago. And then in the center of it all is a collaborative area with a learning stair that'll take you up to the 2nd floor. Go ahead, Monica. And then the 2nd floor is very similar to the first. We have a collaborative area, there's CTE labs, a health lab patient room, ELA and CTE classrooms, and then 3 general classrooms that we're making up for the classrooms that we're displacing with the addition. And it will all be connected to the main science on the 2nd floor as well. Any questions on the floor plans before I move on to the 3D sketches? So the 3D sketches, this is what you will see now when you come in the main, after you enter off of Vance Jackson, a new main entry for hobby with large signage. If you remember on the covered walk, there was the little red cupolas that were on each of the covered walks, so we're taking that over and using that as the main entry piece. And then that accent burgundy color, we're going to create an accent for the entire admin area, and then introducing that purple and yellow brick as a band that goes throughout the admin area, and then introducing the benches, as you can see, for kids to wait on in front of the entry plaza, and then a covered waiting area. And then in the back, the glass you see up high, this is the learning stairs that goes up, and then that brings light into the collaborative area on the 2nd floor and the stair. And then the next slide, please. And this is how it will connect to the existing campus. So this is the element that's there now with the main covered walk. We're going to connect it all the way across the front of the campus into the main entry. So when you come in, you can get dropped off anywhere along here, and you'll be able to go into the front door there. And that's really the end of the presentation. So I'll take any questions if anyone has them.
Thank you, Mr. Lammers. Ms. Chumley?
So building committee had number one, you always bring us wonderful designs.
Thank you.
Always. I'm always looking forward to to what you're going to bring us and what our buildings are going to look like. So thank you. And you did the same thing this time. Did the board have a chance to look at the other option that was in the boardroom before? You didn't? It didn't have, Jerry, help me with it. It had.
The other option we showed, this was silver, or it had the same galvanized metal roof here, and then we didn't have the yellow bands in this option. We had them in the other option, so we moved them to here. That's really the only difference in the two options.
And does anyway, we had a lot of discussion on it, and Jerry, as he always very graciously does, took the remarks that came from the building committee and incorporated them into this look. One of them was that instead of having the metal roof, that we keep the clay tile roof on that, so that it really connects. The metal roof just seemed to, I don't know, to me, it had a it didn't have as strong a connection with it. And then the other piece was making sure that we incorporate the purple and yellow, which you can imagine.
Wait, the lightning's gonna hit.
I know. I was gonna say, I had to bite my teeth a little bit. Yes, but I certainly went with the will of my fellow trustees here on that. Yes, Jerry, I didn't like the purple at all, but you'll make it look good. I'm sure.
It looks great there now.
As long as it's not burnt orange.
Did you get?
I had one project that had burnt orange and maroon.
And maroon. Oh my gosh.
Ms. Timley forgets that I'm not gone yet. Still have significant influence over how schools are designed.
Jerry, I was just going to say, did we get permission from Warren to borrow the colors from them? No, I'm just kidding. Oh, really?
School's been there since the 70s.
Oh, wow. But those colors too, really?
Yeah,
Wow, I didn't know that.
And I never realized, and I've been to that school numerous times, I never realized that purple and yellow were even part of that. And I'm depending on your gentlemanship there, Brian, in relation to colors. Anyway, I think you did a really good job in incorporating it. And the one thing I did have a question on is the silver, the roof, that's the high roof.
This one,
It's similar to what we have on our walkway,
yes,
right?
and what you're seeing is the bottom of it, so that's really, it'll be kind of a light gray color, but you're seeing the light that's reflecting up on it, so.
Soften.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
see, that's a shade, because when the sun comes around, you don't want that light coming in those windows directly, so we put a little shade on it so that it allows it to not be glary.
And it's
inside.
polished brick, right? The color is the polished brick.
The vertical surface is a stucco way up at the top.
Yeah, up
We were
here.
talking about that, and it is a flat roof.
And then the
consistent with-
the colored brick, though,
Oh, the color brick
is-
a glazed.
it's a glazed,
Yes.
it's a glazed brick.
Yes.
And you're assured that we won't have any kind of,
Nowadays, I
Right?
can assure anything.
Based on our research at this time, it's readily available.
And
That's the best
we've
way.
had good experience with glazed brick in the last several years.
okay.
Right.
And
Things
you,
have
and you're gonna bring samples back
we'll have to bring
to
it
make
back to the
sure
building
that
committee.
our colors really, though I know that you try really hard to make those colors match. Anyway, there was a really good discussion at building committee, and I think that we all felt very comfortable with this design. And it's similar to at Zachary that has the graded metal,
Yes.
that
The
it's
perforated.
the perforated metal. Thank you.
That's
It's-
where we borrowed it from, because we thought that was very successful there. Another noteworthy point, just for the sake of understanding that one of the things that we are focused on is providing new fronts to our facilities. Because remember, this was not about new front, it was about a magnet school. But given the fact that we could put it up front and showcase the magnet school, the new front went with it. And so Jerry did an outstanding job of marrying those two together. We did it at Zachary, and it worked out very well as well.
And that's the other thing, is that the admin, so eventually the admin will be moving right across, so we'll have the admin, similar to what we have at Zachary, right? Zachary will have.
And Marshall.
And Marshall, exactly. Marshall's a great example of that. We'll have the magnet admin on one side, and then we'll have the school, and so it'll be more. The only question, I had one question on it. Can you go back to the driveways? Okay, nope, one more, there. I'm still worried about, so the cars that will be coming from the drop-off, and then from that other, right there, and then we're gonna feed them in, because we're gonna have that that circle area right there. We're gonna feed them down into one lane, and I'm worried about the traffic congestion right there. And so I would like to have y'all,
Yeah, we can look at that.
y'all take another look at that, Brian. I'm worried about, and I'm trying to think, because I was on a campus, I'm sorry, I just don't remember which one now, where the driveways blended into, they converged onto one lane to then get out, and it was very congested, and when it was drop-off time, particularly if you came in, and this one is the one that's confusing on how to get into it, but if you get where you've come and you actually need to turn, so you need to move into the one lane and then turn to the left to go back that direction, I think that will cause a problem. So I would really like to have y'all go back and take a look at that configuration and see if there's not something that you think, might be better. I was thinking like even an island or a cut where if they need to go back to the left, staying within the parking lot, that they could funnel there. I don't know. I just think that there's needs to be a better flow there. And then I'm sorry, Joseph, you had.
Well, hold on a second.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm done. That was it. I think you did a wonderful job. Thank you,
Dr. Harrell. First.
I was going to say the same thing. It's already kind of wonky anyway, and I've gotten not complaints, but it's kind of people get used to it. But there's been like uncomfortable incidences, I guess, for a lack of a better way to say it, right now with the current setup. So that is a little disconcerting. Yeah. And maybe, well, I don't know. I want to go drive it now that I've seen this again, because it's still, like right now, it's not great. So we'll check it out. But it gives us something to go from, at least on this, and look at other ways. And then just to Melissa's comment, so my dad was the first PTA president, Hobby, right after he got back from Vietnam, and he was this tough, gruff guy, and proudly wore his purple and gold Hobby Hawk shirt to Handy Andy at that time. So anyway, it's got a great tradition. So this is just adding on to that tradition of excellence at Hobby.
I don't know if that means that I'm mellowing, that
think
I
you are.
actually was able to support purple.
Okay, Ms. Saldana.
Jerry,
Yes, ma'am.
there where it says shifted entry
Yes.
at the very bottom, isn't that showing that we're gonna have two lanes there, one going to the
Yeah, there's
right?
one to the right, and then one that you'll turn left, because you
Right,
can't really
so
go
we are
there's
gonna-
nothing across the street now, so
So we are gonna have two,
you'll have two. And
So
they're
we
two
aren't-
there now, they're just narrower.
They're real narrow.
Yeah, we're making, I think, and this is speculation, that there may have been one wide one initially, and they just, some many years ago divided it in half. And these will be the appropriately sized, so.
That's actually even worse if they're turning right and left there.
Well, they have individual lanes to do that.
Yeah.
Can we approve it pending?
Just a minute. Mr. Medina?
All right, thank you. So just going back to a school that my son attended, Bernal Middle School. This is really important that we do have that queuing line off Vance Jackson, and it does loop for the drop off and pickup. I think like anything new, change, people's perception will adapt, and moving that center piece over to the left and making it wider actually on both sides to meet code as well and other means, I think, and the drop off, the proposed revised drop off, I think it's just going to be, the facelift and everything else that goes into it. I think it's going to be welcoming, and I believe I don't think the confusion is going to be there as much as we're discussing.
Okay. One comment though, we will check with our police officers, right, regarding the traffic patterns and part of the, okay.
They've already reviewed.
All right.
First.
Okay. So, it is on for approval. You will look at the
Yes.
drop off again, but we can approve the rest of the schematic design. Okay. Is there a motion?
I was going to move approval.
We have a motion and a second for approval of schematic design of Hobby Middle School magnet. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the contractor for Village at West Point West Elementary School.
The 2022 bond program included the construction of one elementary school known as Village at West Point West Area Elementary School. This will be our 83rd elementary school. Project was bid, and we received 2 bids, which the details should be in your board docs. If you pull it up, all the detail information is in there. The first bid was from F.A. Nonley Company, currently building Katie Reed School, and has also replaced parts of Westwood Terrace. That was for $42,718,000. The second bid was for D.L. Bandy Constructor, who has done several projects, including the construction of Linda Mota Elementary School. That bid was $44,105,000. Staff and consultants conducted evaluation of all the proposals, and we're recommending the contractor to be F.A. Nunley. F.A. Nunley has, as I mentioned, has done several projects and currently are working on one of our major projects. That will be Katie Reed School. We were about, in all honesty, we're about $2 million over the established budget. And we will be working diligently to try to bring that down through value engineering, which we do from time to time. And so after the board approves that, we will get to work with the contractors, who will then engage the subcontractors, our engineers and architects, and start the value engineering process. And certainly before we sign a contract, to make sure we can get that cost as low as we possibly can, closer to our budget. I will say that the market is very robust. We got aggressive with this. We called 7 contractors. Several of them said they would bid. Some of them did not bid. And we were, we monitor the market. There's other school systems that I know for a fact have also had the same situation. So given all of that, and given the sense that we need to build this building, get it open for the 24th, 2024 school year, we are recommending that we move forward with that, and allows the opportunity to be able to do some value engineering, but certainly get the process started, given various types of delays with equipment and things of that nature that we're experiencing even now as we build buildings.
Ms. Chumley, do you have a comment from the building committee?
Just that we reviewed this and actually went in detail on it, and actually asked about the contractors that had bid and how they were doing in relation to the jobs that they have right now and capacity. So, I mean, I think that it was reviewed fairly closely in relation to that. There's just one question I have is when we approve this, if there's a question in relation to the project management team that is being put on the job, that's something that can be talked through,
Yes.
correct?
Part of the process that we use is once the board approves the contractor, we'll bring them in and have a conversation with them about any part of the evaluation that we needed to focus our attention on. And I failed to mention, we have Raul and Joel, the designers of the project, and we also have representatives here from F.A. Nunley as well, which you have met in the past. They're currently doing Katie Reed. So we've got Blaine Beckman, the president, and Greg Vaughn, the CEO, and the project executive, Bruce Hans as well. They're here today. Actually, we were meeting on Katie Reed about 3 hours ago, so they just decided to come over and
Set up shop, we're opposite.
yeah.
There you go.
Well, I did just want to say thank y'all for being here, and that I know that we've had conversations in relation to the past and challenges that have arisen, and I want to thank you because you made the promise at that time that this was a new face and a new direction, and so I just wanted to say thank you because I've heard really good things, and I'm sure that you will find some great ways to save us some money on this project.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. Joelle particularly, yes, you too, on this. But with that, I move approval.
Okay, Mr. Lopez, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question. Leroy, as far as the project and being that the times are where we're having to order in advance, are we still okay with that? Are we still having any issues with that? Has that been kind of like worked out as well?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
So we don't have any delay in projects or materials as well?
We have some delay in projects, obviously, because we are at mercy of the suppliers and the manufacturers. Matter of fact, one of the reasons we're meeting Katie Reed is because we are delayed with getting switchgear, which is the main component that turns everything on, literally.
Right.
And so the good thing is we're having leadership meetings, myself, Jacob, and obviously the architects and their main leadership to look at ways to be able to, I know they're calling for switchgear. The switchgear is coming from Mexico. It's got to be manufactured over there and tested, and so forth, so on, come over. And so they're calling actually, you're going to drive down there? One of you's going to drive? But,
You're going to take.
but they're very engaged, and that's the kind of partnership that we like, Mr. Lopez, that we are able to
Get a U-Haul and
Go pick it up personally, right?
maybe
No, no.
a trip. We may
Yeah,
have
there
to
you
take
go,
over.
yeah. No, well, that's good, because I just wanted to make sure,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Because that way, hey, because that's what we were talking about when all of this was happening. There was just delays, and things like that, so
one
we're
of the
still
things-
keeping that a priority.
One of the strategies we use is we bid this school a lot earlier than others because we know the time is important. We have control over the time. And so therefore, it's probably almost 2 months earlier than we normally would bid a project of this size, to give them plenty of time to be able to sort through, order the equipment, and then hopefully get it in time so that we can install it and open the school.
Yeah, thank you.
Came out of our schedule, by the way.
Oh, really? Well, thank you so much, Leroy, I appreciate it, that's all
too
that,
much
I don't have any more questions.
Thank you. So we have so there's a motion and a second to approve the contractor for Village at West Point West Elementary School. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank y'all.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda under Human Resources is the 2024 health insurance options.
So just as Letty's coming up, 2 weeks ago, we we continued a conversation about self-funding, potentially moving to self-funding for health insurance in 2024. The board indicated on that evening that you were ready for some additional information, and so tonight we tried to satisfy that request. And so, Letty, I'll kick it to you.
Yes, good evening, board members, Dr. Woods. So we are here for part 2 of our self-funding
But tonight, as we mentioned 2 weeks ago, that now tonight we'll delve into the numbers of specifically Northside and how self-funding would benefit Northside. So I'll turn it over to John Bass, and then I have some handouts for you guys to follow.
Good evening, Dr. Woods, Ms. Freeman, trustees. As Letty is handing out that information, just want to recap the conversation from 2 weeks ago. We talked about self-funding, the attributes of self-funding, and the differences, the strategic differences between self-funding and a fully insured contract. We talked about the characteristics of an optimal employer candidate to consider self-funding, and we also talked briefly about where the savings would generate from. Where would the savings materialize in order to benefit not only the employer but also the participants of the plan. So if you go to the first page under current state, the district pays anywhere from $90 to $91 million in fully insured premium, depending on the fluctuation in the number of employees. We're estimating a modest increase that the market would give. If you remember last year, the district approved a 5.9% increase in premium, which was slightly below medical trend and pharmacy trend. In the analysis that we performed, as we discussed 2 weeks ago, the self-funded contract would include reinsurance, stop-loss insurance, both on an individual basis and an aggregate basis. At least we would recommend a minimum of $500,000 per individual and a traditional aggregate stop-loss of 125%. If you go to the next page, under projected self-funded expenses, I'm going to take you through the numbers real quickly, try to not get too into the weeds here. So we looked at 2022 actual claims that were incurred by the district, and those claims are not quite mature, pretty close. We're here in the middle of February or into February. We just got completion factors from the current vendor for December, so we feel pretty confident that we're working with 22 data that's mature. We're making some projections in terms of medical and pharmacy to 2024. So it's a long way off, but our underwriting and actuarial analysis is pretty accurate. And we project potential claims of $89 million, give or take. We didn't make any adjustments for potential large claims over the stop loss. You will have large claims over the stop loss level of $500,000. In 2020, I think you had 3 or 4. In 21, you had 1. You've got a couple this year. So you're going to pay a premium for that, so you're going to get some money back. So that's really a good guy. But if you want to put an asterisk by reimbursement, aggregate reimbursement equals conservative. That's a pretty conservative projection as 0. We're estimating your stop-loss premium for all of that protection to be roughly $26 per employee per month. Let's call it $3 million annually. Again, we believe, based on our analysis, that's a conservative number. The administrative cost to run the plan, roughly $5.7 million, roughly $49 and change per employee per month. We also believe that's relatively conservative. We talked also about sharing in pharmacy rebates. This is the big ticket item, one of the big items being self-funded. The district, as a self-funded plan sponsor, has the ability to earn rebates based on prescription drug utilization. So that number is, we're estimating is $14.5 million, a relatively large number. When we total up the numbers, we're roughly at $84 million, which is quite a bit less than what your current fully insured premium is today, and certainly what any renewal premium would be. If you go to the next page, we test that number. So we use some actuarial software that our team uses. and we run it through lots of different trials, lots of different utilization patterns, large claim scenarios, etc. As you can see, the software uses over 1,000 potential trials. And the trial would suggest that you would have 5 large claims next year, just based on your demographics, based on the number of employees you have. You would have 5 claims over $500,000. Remember, you only had 1 or 2 this year, so you're estimating quite a bit more. But when we get the output, the bottom line is the scenario suggests that there's a 99.9% chance of beating self-funded, which is pretty good odds. Pretty good odds.
Beating fully insured.
Beating fully insured. I beg your pardon. Thank you. If you go to the next page, we put it all together under a self-funded overview. We simply put the 4 boxes together. It's a little bit of a busy slide, but I'm going to move to the next slide because it really tells the better story. But this pulls it all together, and certainly there is plenty of evidence to showcase that self-funded and moving to a self-funded contract with really no change in plan design, there's no change in contribution analysis, there's no change in the number of employees, and with some conservative estimating, still a very good and positive result. What I like to show on the final slide here is really a multi-year projection, and this is where I'll kind of walk you through some of the numbers. So, and we do this quite often for a lot of our clients. They want to see budgeting over a multi-year period. They just don't want to look at 1 year. They want to expect what the cost would be over typically 3 years, or we have some clients that want to look out 5 years. So in 2024, if we just take the self-funded expenses for medical, we're projecting a little over $62 million of claims. In certainly discussions with some of your benefits team and leadership.
John, hang on 1 second.
Yep.
Monica, will you go forward one? One more. Keep going. Oh wait, we're headed the wrong direction.
Go backward.
Here.
You're
Yeah.
good.
There you go.
Yep.
Thank you.
So for 2024, we break out that medical and pharmacy number, and we separate it. 62.8 million projected for medical, 26.9%, 26.9 million for pharmacy. We still believe those are relatively conservative numbers. We're using conservative trend factors. We've made some adjustments in the claim scenario based on what we understand is within your fully insured arrangement, but we still think there's some margin in there, in that number. And the reason I say that is I just looked at the numbers for 22, and for 4 years in a row, Northside's claimed cost in total has been less than the projection from your carrier. For 4 years in a row, you've always been less than the projected claims. The scenario we're using is basically the projection, just as you would have done in previous years or just as your current carrier did. So I do think that number is a little conservative, but at least it is reasonable and fair, and there is some protection. We carry down the administrative numbers, the stop-loss numbers, and then you get your self-funded cost structure. You see on the notes on the right-hand side the trend factors that were used, the assumptions that we made, and we carry forward this 3 years, and you can see over a 3-year period the savings to the bottom line. And really, as a person in the business for the tenure that I have, I feel very confident in these numbers. Questions?
I do have. On the pharmacy side, who makes the decision as to what pharmaceuticals are covered through the insurance plan, and does the pharmacy rebate feed into any of that?
The district has a preferred drug list or a formulary today by your current carrier, United Healthcare, which is a relatively broad prescription drug list. It's been in place now for 6 years, 6 or 7 years. There's been really no change to that. There's some minor changes as drugs go from brand to generic, so on and so forth. But to my understanding, there's really been no member or employee disruption or complaint about that. If the district does want to make some changes, really what's happening in the marketplace is making it a bit more restrictive, if you would desire, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend that at this point. As for the rebates, those are really a function of specialty drugs and some brand name drugs. The specialty drugs are quite popular. Those are the ones you see on TV. They're frankly life-changing medications for many individuals suffering from a whole host of conditions. They're just simply costly. For example, Humira, which you've seen, which will hopefully go generic sometime in 2023. There's a biosimilar for Humira that's coming to the marketplace. But the average cost of one Humira injection is $8,500 per month. So they're relatively costly, but there is lots of rebate dollars associated with that. Final point, we're not suggesting the district make any adjustments to maximize rebates. What we would recommend is using strong pharmacy pricing from your prescription drug vendor, as well as a targeted rebate strategy, because at the end of the day, we measure everything on net cost. What does it cost, right? What's the cost today? What's the cost tomorrow? And so we balance those in order to get really the best total net cost for the district and the employees.
Mr. Lopez?
Thank you. I have one question, and it centers around, the multi-year projection. When we were talking about how from 2024 to 2025, specifically on the pharmacy, what are the trends that you're saying? You mentioned something about trends. What were those trends that you look at? Is it the cost of like you said, cost? Are there other factors that influence that, makers or other conditions that
Specific
would influence
on
it?
drugs?
Yeah,
Or
the
drugs?
pharmaceutical, right? The pharmacy side.
Sure. As you can see on the notes side, pharmacy trend, and that's just an average really across the industry, is 10%. That's probably on the light side. It's probably, we would suggest it may be closer to 10.5 to 11. But we did go back and look at the district's trend for pharmacy, and you're not trending at 11%. You're really trending still in the single digits. But to be conservative, we're using a 10% pharmacy trend. What makes up that trend primarily is utilization of medications, which is not a bad thing. If people need care and a medication, many times that's what helps them get better. But what's driving trend primarily is specialty medications. The high-cost specialty medications that are becoming more and more frequent, and I would argue probably on average 4 or 5% of medications drive 80% of your costs.
Okay. So those are like for specific drugs, for specific medical treatments, right?
Correct.
Cancer or something like that, right? Or whatever, right?
Multiple sclerosis, Crohn's disease, diabetes, things of that nature that really prior there were medications out there, but the quality of life for the individuals was still not very good.
Right.
And now some of those medications, taken regularly, their quality of life is significantly improved, which is a good thing. They're just simply costly.
And the reason why I asked that is because I was curious to know. Sometimes when there's like a certain disease that an employee may be being treated for, and they say, hey, would you be interested in doing a trial basis, right? Trying this medication. That's not covered through us, though, right? That's not
typically not.
Right.
Typically, a trial is
through that research firm,
correct.
through that medical practice that's doing the trial. Okay, I was just curious.
Anyone else?
Other questions?
If I have one more,
Sure.
somebody else.
Okay. Ms. Chumley?
Okay, so I'm still looking at, so what you were saying is if we go to, hang on just a second. I'm looking, where's the timetable?
It's the very last page.
The very last page. Okay, so what you're saying is you're comparing if we have a vendor that already has a plan, which is what y'all had talked about last time, that is exactly like our plan, that this is what you're anticipating.
Right, because the plans
Right.
don't change. Same plans. So what we're really considering is changing just how the plans are funded. It's really all we're suggesting.
Okay, and is this firm numbers that we've gotten back from United Healthcare?
No,
Or
I should let you probably talk about the
Or
analysis
you
of
just
the.
are basing it on
bids.
actuary standards of about a 5% increase
Yes.
per year?
Yes, these are just simply adjustments we see in the marketplace. We have a very good handle on what it costs to run a plan based on your size, the number of employees, your demographics. We know what administrative costs are. We know what typically stop loss will cost. Your claims are your claims. We know exactly what your claims are, so we're using traditional underwriting models to move the claims forward. We're looking at your pharmacy spend. We know exactly the medications that is incurred by all employees. We know how many specialty drugs there are. We can estimate the rebates. We can get down pretty granular. So we pretty much know how the plan's going to run with some obviously margin for change, but in our minds, it's incidental.
So walk me through this. So our specific deductible under our self-funded is going to be $500,000.
We would recommend one approximately $500,000.
And anything then over that is going to be captured by the stop loss insurance that.
Yes, ma'am.
Or the reinsurance that we're going to be carrying.
Yes, ma'am.
right? Okay, and explain, thank you for that question, Karen, on the prescriptions. But explain the rebates. How do you get 14.5?
So.
In rebates on the pharmacy?
So rebates are in essence just an inducement for a pharmacy benefit manager to include their drug on their preferred drug list or their formulary. So as drugs are utilized, rebates are paid. It's as simple as that. Where the balance is crafting a preferred drug list or a formulary that is appropriate, that is efficient, that is wise for consumers, but yet to look at the efficacy of the drug as well. United Healthcare, we're using their formulary. We would use whichever vendor the district chose. We would look at that and see if there's any disruption. But it would be unwise to choose medications and not, for example, to exclude specialty medications. That would not be wise. Obviously, you have lots of employees that take specialty drugs and they're living a great life. Conversely, we would not want to cover drugs that have no, or we wouldn't want to potentially put as a preferred drug a medication that's high cost, even though it may be a high rebate, that's high cost, and there are plenty of other options available at lower cost, maybe a lower rebate, but that's the way it should work. So
let me give you an example. So we have an employee whose doctor is very concerned about the efficacy of drugs that the individual has to take. And so he recommends a drug that is manufactured in the United States versus a generic drug that's manufactured outside of the United States, but is very typically used for this, illness that many individuals have in the U.S. So that doctor prescribes that, that patient wants to take that drug, it's not on our formulary list, so what happens to that patient?
It's either considered as a generic, tier 1, or brand name preferred, or it's tier 3. It's a third tier.
So we don't exclude
We don't
any
exclude it.
medication, it'll just change in relation to the cost of that,
Correct.
of that individual.
Correct. We don't exclude that drug if it's a federal FDA-approved federal legend drug. Now, there are drugs that are excluded. For example, drugs that are available over the counter, right? Those are excluded. Drugs that are treating a condition that the plan does not cover may be excluded.
But, so we're saying that the rebate, and I'm assuming that our plan now, United must do the same thing. I'm sure this is not unique to this plan. But I will tell you, just having the discussion about it, that a drug company will give us money if we put their drug into that tier 1 and then promote, because to me, to get that, then you have to promote to the doctors to prescribe that drug, and we're basing it on getting a rebate back for that. That makes me uncomfortable with
Well,
that.
I think
Though-
it's more complicated than that, because while there's a rebate for these drugs that you see advertised, for example, on television, there's also, in many cases, high efficacy for the drug, right? And so you're looking at the balance between rebate and does it work for patients, right? And if a doctor prescribes it and it works for patients and we happen to get rebates out of it, rebates are happening today in the current model.
They just don't go to Northside.
They just don't come to Northside.
Right, they
They
don't go to us.
they
go
accrue to somebody else.
Yeah, they go to United,
So-
but you understand though, Brian, how it makes me uncomfortable, and it's an aspect of health insurance that we just have to deal with, so I recognize that.
It's valid, and it's what makes this, frankly, work financially.
But it is fair to say, like other insurances or any insurance, sometimes a doctor will prescribe a drug for a patient, and if the insurance doesn't cover it, the patient or the doctor sometimes needs to show that they failed on the generic before an insurance company would pay for the other drug. So that's still going to happen.
That's
Yeah,
still-
that's still gonna-
That will still be a part of this.
And that's being a smart plan sponsor, to have clinical rules associated with that.
Right.
That's in place today. We would suggest those remain moving forward. Absolutely.
And I guess it's where I'm really still struggling with this is that we want to approve that our timeline is that we approve that we self-fund, and then we approve the vendor that we're going to use to handle.
To run the plan.
To run the plan. And then, after that, then the plan designs and premium structure comes to us. To me, Brian, I'm sorry, but
Right.
that's putting the cart in front of the horse.
In fact, that's what you've always done, because without knowing who the vendor is and having that process done, you can't go into plan design. So in fact, that's what we've done.
Well, we've had a plan design, I think, that we knew, and we knew how many of our employees, and I guess that's really what you're saying, is we're doing the same thing.
Yeah, we think
other than-
that for year one in 2024, that we make, if any changes, very minimal changes, so that employees don't see a disruption to the plan that they're used to, and very likely, assuming these projections were to come to pass, or even better, given that these are, as John indicates, conservative assumptions, then we pass savings on to employees.
And at what point will we be able to determine if we're going to be able to do that, to pass that? So we're figuring this projection, we're gonna have $10 million savings on that first year. At what point do we determine that we're going to be able, how much of that we are going to pass to our employees? And I would feel much better having an idea of at least who the vendors are. Who are we talking about?
Well, they're the normal suspects, right? They're the ones that we talk about pretty much any year that we go out for RFP.
And I do want to tell you that we just met last Friday because we went out for RFP back in December. And so the bids came in. We had 3 vendors that did bid for, and we did ask for them to show us numbers between fully insured and self-funded. And so we met last Friday. We had a committee. It was all day to review both numbers. And so that's what we are hoping to come to you guys with, is the decision that we made as a committee of who we've chosen for our healthcare provider for '24.
I don't know, I'm really, and I've been a big proponent of us looking towards moving to self-funding. But again, my idea of what self-funding was not just saying United Healthcare, if we have them handle the plan, United Healthcare if we go self-funding, because there's got to be something. I'm very skeptical about why in the world would the ones that do fully funded turn around and they're also brokering self-funded plans as well. So where is the difference? And what are they giving up? What are they changing? If we're doing it this way, I'll be real upfront with you guys. I'm not comfortable with this. If we're going in this direction, that we're going to be using the same suspects that we have dealt with in relation to our employees' health. And when we have been presented our insurance in the past, we've been presented kind of the best case scenarios, because in talking to employees over the last few months, the premiums that they are paying are much larger than what I had thought our employees were paying for insurance. And their deductibles are much higher. And so if all we're talking about on self-funded is just changing the vendor from United to Aetna, and we're still going to be, seeing the same type of plans, but the same kind of cost, where we're talking about the savings to us, I would really want some assurance that the majority of that savings is going to go back to our employees, because I'm not seeing how United here, fully funded, United here, self-funded, that our employees are going to be the ones seeing the benefit from this. And without that, Brian, that was the whole purpose of moving to self-funding, was to give our employees the break.
Yeah, I agree. And so I think, if let's call it $10 million. Let's assume that that's an accurate number, right? We could decide up front that we're going to dedicate a portion of those funds. I would not recommend 100%, but a portion of those funds to go to lowering premiums, right? You could decide that. Then you could see how the plan operates for a while and see if it's going to be 10, or is it more like 7, or is it more like 13? And then come back and make additional decisions if you're doing better, right? And you would want to wait several months, because remember, when you start a plan year, those claims come in very slowly for a while, right? Because the old claims are owned by the old carrier. So you'd want to wait several months. But after you got through several months and you saw either these projections are true or they were even better than those projections, then the board could decide to have a premium holiday for a month if they chose to, right? There's all kinds of ways to do that. But you would do that based on performance data of the plan. You wouldn't commit to something up front, because you don't want to commit to something that then eventually down the road you regret, right? But we think that we could commit to a number up front that would just straight lower premiums, period. Then you look at plan performance over time and decide, can you do additional cost savings?
No, I really do think it's important, though, that we as a board look at what the health insurance costs really are for employee and spouse and children. Because I think sometimes what we look at is that base employee only. That's a completely different premium from what our employees that are insuring their spouse or their
Of
children
course. Yeah,
are
absolutely.
paying. And I think that we need to be very cognizant of what is coming out of their pocket.
So
'Cause
if I could say,
I'm really concerned about
if I could say, Ms.
that.
Chumley, like, John said that a lot of those numbers are very conservative, but who keeps the money when we come out underneath premiums? And in the last 4 years, we have come under the projected amount, but then the insurance company gets to keep the money.
Gets to
Right.
keep
Plus
all that,
the
yeah.
rebates, right? So this way, now we are in control of, we get that monies, those monies,
Right.
we get the rebates, and then that is something that I have spoken with John and Alicia about, the woman that was here with us 2 weeks ago, that was the whole purpose of going self-funded was, and like I said, to Mr. Lopez, I'm an employee too, right? And so we want to give those whatever it is that we are profiting, to give that back to the employee, right? That is my whole job, because we have to be transparent with these numbers, right? And so that is our job, is to give back to the employees. And so there's a lot of good ideas that are being tossed around right now, but the beautiful thing about self-funding is we get to control the package and the pricing. And
But we're really not controlling the package, because we're talking about all we're gonna do is take the exact same package we have now and have it through someone else that's gonna control it. And I was employed for 41 years with an insurance company, and I'm gonna tell you, insurance carriers don't just give their money away. So I'm just not seeing, if United has it as self-funded and gets all those benefits of keeping that, then why are they even in are fully funded, why are they even in the self-funded market?
So John, why don't you answer that?
I mean, I'm not, Brian, maybe that's the biggest question is.
If I'm one of
they're not
those
doing it out of
folks,
the goodness of their heart.
why would I offer both?
Well, United Healthcare has never been asked to go self-funded. They're happy to keep you fully insured for the reasons you just stated. So would any other carrier. But the market for employers of 10,000 employees covered under a plan, Northside is one of the very few that are fully insured. Most are self-funded for the reasons we have just articulated. And it's not necessarily wrong or right to be fully insured or self-funded. It's really a matter of understanding risk, and it's understanding how best to use the funds that are available on behalf of your employees. And as Letty said, really the control of your plan design, plan flexibility, your contribution formula, et cetera, really is now controlled by the district. And that's a good thing, because as Dr. Wood says, you have the ability to make those decisions, rather than really take the decisions that are then put forth by the insured marketplace.
So John, real quick on that, I don't mean to
No,
interrupt
I'm
your
good.
question.
No, I'm.
So when we're
Miss
talking
Saldana, wait,
about,
just,
I'm sorry.
Gerald, I'm sorry, Miss Saldana's had her light on for a while. Miss Saldana.
I still have the concern that we still do not know what are the employees paying right now, and are they going to save money if we go self-funded? Are we going to lower the premium? Or are we now looking at a higher premium for our employees?
I will defer to Letty and staff and Dr. Woods, but certainly not a higher premium for the numbers we've just looked at. I think the question now really is what the contribution formula should be moving forward. Plenty of conversation to say it should be lower.
Okay, well then I'll ask Letty. Are our employees who have families, are they paying over $1,000 a month for insurance?
Sometimes, yes, in some of the
Depending on the
plans they
family
do,
members.
but the district also covers 70% of the total premium. So that is what's left over. That's sometimes
So
it's
what's left
30%.
over is over $1,000, and yet we are covering 70%.
It's the cost of insurance.
Yeah, that's the cost of medical insurance.
Thank you.
That's
Mr.
depending
Lopez.
upon which plan you chose.
Correct.
yeah,
Mr.
there's what,
Lopez?
6?
There are 6 plans currently.
Yeah. Mr. Lopez, did you have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Additional?
No, so basically what we're talking about here, and just kind of, for me, I'm just trying to make sure I make sense of it. All we're just saying is that instead of whatever insurance provider we're having, they're taking the risk. Now we're just saying, we're just reversing it, right? We're covering for our gaps, we're covering for losses, or not gaps. We're just covering for losses, through stop losses. And we're gonna reap more of the benefits, right, or not the benefits, we're gonna reap the savings of that. In anywhere in this next process, what we're talking about now is we're saying from this point on till 2021, we're looking at still working with the current insurance provider?
Till 2024.
I'm sorry, 2024, I'm sorry. I don't know why I said 20.
We just, yep.
24, yeah. That's through the rest of that 2024 year as well, right? Or just, we're gonna go shop somebody else after that, right?
So
I'm
we are,
gonna make,
actually, it's gonna expire at the end of 23, and so
Okay.
the discussion right now with the committee is 24 and forward.
okay. And those are the major big ones here in Texas, right? Those are, we know who those are. And you said you have possibly a recommendation for the next one, or is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
with the-
So if we approve this now, would that be that this is gonna be moving forward for?
This is not for
Am I
approval.
right?
This is for discussion tonight.
Okay,
So-
okay, I thought that's what you were gonna make a
So the-
recommendation. Oh, okay, for in March, okay.
Yes, it was, tonight was just the.
Discussion.
The discussion of the north side, specifically north side numbers. And then we're hoping that in March 28th, we come back for approval for the self-funding and for the
Okay.
carrier that we've chosen.
Who are the providers, who are the providers, is that what you were saying?
Yes.
Yeah, who are the providers, the ones that we're talking about?
I don't know if we can say that right now.
You can't?
Yeah, we're in the bid process.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can share that with the board prior to the vote.
But if you already have someone who they're gonna recommend, Brian,
Right, but we're not ready to recommend them tonight.
well, and please don't just bring one person when you do that. Let us see what other,
Oh, we'll show you
what other people
the
have.
bids, yeah.
Have recommended and what companies and,
Sure.
I'm still skeptical because they're being forced to have to move into this market, really is what you're saying. Because people our side, districts our size, employees our side, they're being forced to have to do this.
Of course, it's,
And
we
they're not
actually
gonna be doing
control
it
some of the
when
market.
They're giving us the full benefit of things. They're just not, that's not how corporate America works.
Well, it's our, I understand your comment. It's our job as your consultants to make sure that the contractual arrangements, whatever vendor that the district chooses, commits to all the services that the district has set forth in their RFP, and that the contracts are clear, they're transparent, obviously in writing, and that's our job, is to make sure that everything that is being committed today and the services that Letty and her team are receiving and the plan structure that's in place today is the plan structure that moves forward in self-funded or whatever desired changes you want to make. That's part of our job as your consultant and advisor to make sure that happens. Just last comment, I think the district's in a very good position financially to have options in front of you. While it may appear strange or unusual, this is what we do for a living at McGriff. And so we understand how the market works and we understand how insurance companies work. So we're very confident in the evaluation, but we'll make sure that the district makes a really good decision.
Mr. Blunt?
Sorry, you hit my light choice. Just one quick question. So, based on the timeline that we have here, when could this board see the possible lower premiums? Would that be in the June or October? Or?
So we were hoping to, well, not hoping, but in June, we were planning to come
Okay.
To the board with the plans and what it's gonna look like.
So then we could have that discussion then, right?
And
that
the
you-
premium, and the premium structure, which I think is what you're actually asking
Exactly.
about.
Yeah, the
right?
premiums, yeah.
You could actually look at a before and an after, kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Medina?
Thank you, Madam President. So, Mr. Bass, I want to thank you for the work you've done on this and bringing this to us, as well as Letty. It's tremendous. looking at the value and what goes back to the employee, their families, but also keep in mind some of these families, children have their personal care that they like to keep because they've built those relationships and that trust. And so most importantly, I think this is a great step forward. Like you shared, the district's in a great position. And I like to see what's more to come.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you all for coming back.
Our pleasure.
We'll see you guys
Thanks,
at the
Licky.
end of
Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Now that I left my agenda again. All right, next item on the agenda is announcing candidacy for trustee election. At this time, candidates for Northside Board of Trustees for the May 6, 2023 election will have the opportunity to announce their candidacy. We ask you, we're going to call you up as you signed in, and we ask that you please keep your remarks to no more than 3 minutes. Y'all were here earlier. The drill is that Ms. Saldana here at the end of 2 minutes will hold up a yellow card. You need to start thinking about wrapping up your remarks, and the red card means that your time is up. We encourage you to use your time to announce your candidacy, speak about why you're running for the school board, and to not make any negative comments about any individuals. Okey doke.
And I'll read the order of folks signed up. Matthews Ninen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Blunt?
Keep hitting that button. One question is, I know we have it on the February. I'm trying to remember. Do we have this on the March agenda also?
I don't know if it's on there, Mr. Blunt.
Or will be. That's what I'm. Yeah, given pass.
Yeah, typically we have put it on more than one agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we could. For those that haven't
Right.
had the opportunity.
Or aren't with us this evening.
Right.
City Council has theirs tonight too, so some of the folks that are running for the board are at that.
Okay.
Mr. Ninen. George Ayala. I'm just calling people because sometimes they're
I know
in the
there were
hallway.
people standing out in
Right,
the hall,
yeah.
so if they come in after we're done, if they do come in, we can.
Sure.
Okay.
David Salcido. Ty Chumley. Raul Davila.
Okay.
Mary Olison.
That's Mary.
Good evening, trustees and Dr. Brian Woods. Good evening. My name is May Ollison, candidate for District 2. The reason, I am a long-time educator for 22 years and have advocated for issues that concern teacher recruiting and retention. As an administrator, I have made sure that my staff is provided ongoing professional development in areas of growth and given a chance to become knowledgeable in educational experience. Under my leadership, 12 teachers have moved onto administrative positions and have also mentored 3 that went up into administrative positions who are here in Northside. I have been a teacher, assistant principal, and assistant superintendent. My skills that I bring to you is the director of Texas Education Policy Institute. That is the ability to gain relationships with elected officials. With those relations, I have been able to reach out to teachers to train them on how to learn policy and advocacy and learn how to go about the process of making a difference in education. The most important is to make sure that teachers have a voice. People support what they create. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kimberly Delata.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Delata. On the ballot as a candidate for District 4 is Kimberly Jones. I'm a single parent of 7 children, all of whom are Northside students. We've resided in Districts 2, 3, and 4, with many of our activities taking place in District 7. Over the last nearly 10 years, we've resided in Texas. My children are currently attending Brennan, Luna, and Galm. In the past, they've attended Northwest Crossing, Broccoli, and Stevenson. I'm in the process of completing a degree in psychology with a focus on clinical mental health, and have prior working experience within schools as my time in California for Long Beach Unified School District as an instructional assistant and one-on-one aide with special need classrooms, as well as briefly here in NISD in response to the district's pleas for help after schools fully returned after the pandemic, working as a custodian. I am running to represent District 4 on the Board of Trustees because I want to advocate not just for our students, but our teachers, paraprofessionals, and auxiliary staff. The current environment inside our schools is not a sustainable one. We do not have we do not have a teacher or auxiliary staff shortage because people do not want to work. We have this situation going on because of practices being put in place from the top down that create a toxic work environment and affect our children's ability to learn. I observed this go on since before the pandemic. I believe the federally funded, regulated bare minimums in standards should not be the maximum that Northside provides. While I know we have many staff members within Northside that are amazing, at an administrative level, there is much room for improvement for Northside to truly have the title of being excellent. Personally, I am not okay with Northside ranking number 716 out of 1,196 districts in Texas. Being the 4th largest district in the state, we have the ability to be better than that. Those numbers on my children's report cards would be 59.86%, or a D+ as a district. We are only as good as our underserved and underrepresented students are supported. I appreciate the many years of service from the current board members sitting before me, several of whom was service to NISD that began while I was still in middle or high school. But I feel that it is time for a change to bring in a new generation to represent the next wave of students and growth from Northside. I feel my experiences aid in my ability to support the future of Northside as a member of the Board of Trustees. I have firsthand experience as a parent with students that have utilized early intervention services and special ed, as well as things like the GT program and AP courses. I have volunteered in my children's classrooms and supported the PTAs on their campus. I have volunteered in leadership positions with Scouts, as well as while residing in New York, participated as a ladies auxiliary member for our volunteer fire department. Budgets, fundraising, grant writing, policy making, and advocating are not foreign concepts to me. I've been told before that leadership is not about being in charge. Leadership is about taking care of those in your charge, and it is my desire to assist in taking care of not just the educational needs of our students, but the overall well-being of all encompassed by Northside that leads me today to run to represent District 4. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carla Duran.
Good evening to our Board of Trustees and our Superintendent. Madam Chair, I want to thank you for your service. Having been a teacher here for 6 years at Northside, I worked alongside many of you, to include being a member of the Arena Vice President of the Educational Improvement Council here with Dr. Jordan. I've also been a member of the Citizens Bond Committee from 2017 through 2018, an informal administrative intern. I've gone through the pipeline of the Northside Leadership Academy. I've been a world language teacher, an ESL teacher, a dual language teacher, an animation CTE business department coordinator, an avid tutor. In addition to my other experience coming from the business world, I worked at State Farm and USAA. And the nonprofit world experience led me to education. As a current bilingual administrator, I'm deeply engaged in our local community. I'm a proud mother of a son attending Johns Hopkins University. He's a pre-med major thanks to his elementary teachers here at Northside. So my 14 years in education in both private, charter, and public schools have prepared me with my business background and educational experience to serve as a District 3 Board of Trustee. And I want to continue to help our community provide a quality education for all and setting a firm foundation for our families here in District 3. So I want to thank you again for your time, and good night.
Amy Hoffman.
Good evening, Dr. Woods and trustees. I'm going to follow my notes and talk super fast because that's what I do. But my name is Amy Hoffman, and I am running for the Northside trustee position for District 1. I'm a daughter of 2 retired Northside teachers. My husband and I both are Northside graduates, and we currently have 5 of our children in Northside schools. So we have a little family joke. It's Amy Aaron had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. So we have Evelyn, who's a senior and varsity cheerleader at Stevens. Isaac, who's a sophomore at Health Careers, Elias, who's a freshman at Health Careers, and they both are swimmers and water polo. Ian, who's a 6th grader at Vale Middle School and is excited to be part of their drum line, and Olivia, Miss O, who's a kindergarten at Mernon Elementary. So we have all levels of public education at our house. I have loved serving the last 13 years on all of my children's school PTAs, and the last 2 years on the Northside Council of PTAs as their Healthy Lifestyles Chair. During just my first 2 years as a PTA president of a Title I campus, we earned National PTA School of Excellence Award, which is the highest award a PTA can earn, 2 years in a row. At that time, we were the only Northside PTA to have earned that award twice. We were awarded $5,000 in National PTA's Healthy Lifestyles grants, and I personally wrote both of those grants. Later, I was asked by National PTA to do a webinar with PTAs from all over the country to explain the great work we did at our Northside school to help the students, staff, and families get healthier. We brought the Watchdogs program, which is Dad for Great Students, to our local elementary schools in order to help with additional school safety. This was an amazing program, and it was the largest event turnout for the school that year. We earned over $75,000 in fundraisers in just those 2 years that went directly to supporting our students with additional reading and math programs, classroom supplies, club scholarships, PE equipment, music equipment, classroom parties, buses for each field trip, etc., etc. We earned numerous Texas PTA and Northside Council of PTA's membership awards and recognitions, and that was only in my first 2 years. I was one of the parents who fought hard on the Northside Bond Committee for the bulletproof entryways that we now have at every elementary school. I have served the last 10 years as my HOA board, with 6 of those years being president. And just one of the things I've done there was to design and install an entire new park with swings and shade cover. I've served 13 years as a Girl Scout, Boy Scout, and now American Heritage Girl Scout leader to all of my kids' units. I represent District 4 on the City Council's Commission for Strengthening Families. I fought hard during our last city bond to get our district an additional $1.8 million to complete our Greenway trails. When I believe in something, I work hard to help it succeed. If I'm elected as Northside trustees for District 1, I will work just as hard for all of our students, all of our amazing staff, and their families. That includes advocating to our Texas legislators in Austin, just like I did yesterday with Texas PTA and my older daughter, who got to be one of the student caucus, for additional resources that we need to pay for our teachers and all of our staff what they truly deserve, because they are the heart of our public school system. Thanks so much. Whew, I timed it.
Manuel Garcia.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Manuel Garcia. I am running for place 2 of the trustees. I'm also a graduate of Northside Independent School District. I graduated, and so is my son, my daughter, and I've got 2 little grandchildren that are students at Northside. I will say that it's very important to me what you guys do, and I want to say thank you. I would love to be a part of the team. A little bit about myself, though. My parents were immigrants, and fortunately, they were able to come to the States, and I was able to graduate here. I was born in the U.S., but because of that, as a way to say thank you to my country, I enlisted upon graduating high school. I joined the United States Navy to say thank you for what they've done to help my family out. Now I'm here. My children have grown. They're on their own. And I want to go back to the basics of where it all began. What gave me the foundation, aside from my parents, was the school system was that in place would put me where I am today. I would love to be a part of the team. I think I've got a lot to show. I've got a lot to help out with. And with that, I'll say that my name is Manuel Garcia, and hopefully I'll join your team because I really enjoy what we're doing. I just want to be a part because I think I can bring something to it also. God bless you guys. Thank you.
Mr. Garcia, that's your pen.
A broken pen. Thank you so much. I've been writing so much, I'm nervous.
Did I miss? Did it? Yeah, sorry. Oh, okay. Please. I thought I recognized you. I apologize.
Good evening. My name is Jordan Wagner, and I am running for District 4 for NISD Board of Trustees. Thank you all for your service to this, oh, there we go. Thank you. Okay. I'm a parent, a volunteer, a small business owner, and a substitute teacher in this district. I'm here today because I have a tremendous desire to serve Northside students, teachers, and families. I believe the board would benefit from me having me on the board to provide insight into the thoughts and wishes of families like mine that are affected by the decisions of this board. I've had the opportunity to see the inner workings of classrooms these last few years as a PTA volunteer and as a substitute. When I'm in a classroom, I'm not just a substitute teacher. I'm a nurse, I'm a consoler, and sometimes I'm a referee. I am also here because there is a need to update policies in the post-COVID era. I think my experience working with children inside and outside of the classroom would be beneficial to this board. Before I had children, I worked in a treatment facility for the youth and as a juvenile detention officer and as a juvenile case management manager. My passion is volunteerism. I have been an avid volunteer my entire life. I took several leadership roles in multiple groups in high school and left Texas State University with over 5,000 logged volunteer hours. We moved back to Texas after my husband's last duty station, and I jumped into a number of volunteer positions and committees, such as the Northside Bond Committee and coaching my daughter's volleyball CYO team, and focus groups, and going to the Capitol, and all the things. But my main focus has been on the local and council PTA board and my HOA board. I know how and what a board does and doesn't do. My HOA meetings sometimes have gotten heated, but since I've taken the president role, I have gotten more people in my community involved in our events, have been under budget every year, and have brought incremental change to make their lives easier and not create more hoops to jump through. If elected, I will vote for policies that don't make students and teachers jump through hoops to get the support that they desperately need while staying within our budget. Thank you.
Okay. And now's the time for incumbents, if you would like to say a few words. Either Mr. Lopez or Mr. Blunt. You can stay right where you are if you would like.
Well, good evening. My name is Gerald Lopez, current Vice President of the school board. A little bit about myself and why I'm running, or why I want to continue to run for my position. It boils down to service. What is it that I feel about when I want to serve my community, and how do I want to serve my community? And I think that's been ingrained in us as from our parents. My experience in the past, I have worked for Northside as a teacher assistant. I have worked for law firms in the past, and then recently, my last employment was the chief of staff for Ray Lopez for City Council District 6. It was there that I learned how to work with communities, work with neighborhood associations, deal with presidents and their issues within their neighborhoods, and deal with infrastructure issues. That has, which led me to my 2015 board voted on, me being on the school board. I have served for, this is going to be my 8th year, and my goals for this year has been to continue to serve our teachers, our students, and our parents. Now more than ever, if we have to look at what a community looks like, it's what we've been talking about in this past meeting. It's what we've been talking about, taking care of our teachers, taking care of our students, and doing the right things that we need to do. We talk about pay. We talk about things that are important to our families, to our teachers, to our janitors. These are the things that we're talking about now. This is what we've been planning. These are the topics that we've been working on, and I want to continue to serve District 2 as a trustee, because these things have taken time. My past experience has been working in legislation, working along my colleagues, legislating for the increase of the allotment, for funding. Those are the things that's where we're going to work and we can make a difference. Now, we've got to challenge, we've got to talk to our legislators. We've got to be able to let them know, hey, here's what our community wants. And I think together we can do that. I'm proud to run among two individuals that have the children's heart at heart, right? It's an honor to run with you. I appreciate it. We just give the public a choice. Thank you so much.
Mr. Blunt? You'll pass right now. Okay. All right. I think that includes our agenda, except for future agenda items. Dr. Woods?
Yes, ma'am. Just in your blue folder, you do have items that we're holding for March. I did add, Mr. Blunt, the candidacy to it just to make sure we've got that. And obviously, the self-funding topic will return in March as well. Pretty much the rest of it you can see on that list.
Okay.
Brian, can we make sure that we have a good sampling of what the premiums are that our employees are paying right now for that presentation?
The conversation in March is really just around, does the board desire to look at self-funding, and if so, who would the vendor be that you want to choose? I think the point that was made earlier is, I think it was Mr. Blunt who said, so is the meeting in June where you would look at current premiums and then proposed premiums for the various plans, and then with, as you noted earlier, the various ways we separate a plan, so employee only, employee and spouse, all of that. That's where you'd look at the before and after. That won't be ready in March.
But we have what our employees are paying right now,
Oh, of course.
and that's what I'm asking for.
We can send that to you anytime.
Yeah, if we could just have that.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a list of employee only, employee and spouse,
Yeah,
employee and children.
we'll send that in
What
Friday
their
letter.
current premiums are. Because $1,200 and we're paying 70%, and what they're still paying is $1,200.
It's accurate.
Exactly. So I would like to,
Yeah, remember, this is current year.
Right.
A $90 million plan.
right. But I just would like to see that list of those, because I think the board would find it very surprising, Brian, because when we have compared plans before, I don't think that we had the real feel of what our employees were paying. So,
Yeah, it can be from very little to a whole lot, depending upon how many people are insured and what the plan is.
and the deductibles that they're paying too.
But remember, that's treatment by treatment, right? That's not the same.
Well, no, I mean, there's some that are, just your standard deductibles, your catastrophe deductibles, your copay.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Your copay deductibles.
Out of pocket.
Right, your out of pockets. I just think that while we're having the whole discussion, we still need to have, an idea of where we're coming from right now.
Ms. Saldana?
For the record, it looks like Brennan and Warren will be playing again.
No, Harlan.
Hey, how do you know that? You're paying it.
My husband texted us.
The magic of technology.
Before we make the announcement to move into close, are y'all two students? I'm sorry, we didn't recognize you before. Uh-huh.
Yes, we're from the University of Texas at San Antonio, and we're just sitting in for an assignment. We actually attended
Bless you.
we attended the ALPS interview session last week, but we're at NISD teachers. So yes, we're also.
Okay.
Oh, great.
We're just here.
Okay. It was.
We've never been to a board meeting before. We've seen
Oh, how?
the minutes.
Okay, there you go.
We were like, well, it would be nice to see what it's like in person. So.
There you go.
It's the long one.
Yes.
All right.
Good for you. Thank you for coming.
Probably should have contacted me before you decided what you needed.
So the Board of Trustees on February 28th, 2023, beginning at, we'll take a 5-minute break, or a little more than that, at 9:25, we'll convene in closed meeting in accordance with Texas Government Code, Section 551.071 to 551.084. Are we ready?
Appointments, yeah.
All right. The Board of Trustees on February 28th, 2023, beginning at 10:17 p.m. will convene in open meeting at 10:17 p.m. Is there a motion?
I motion to accept the administrative appointments as discussed in closed session.
We have a motion and a second to accept the admin appointments as discussed and closed. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and unless there's any objection, the board ended its meeting at 10:18 p.m.